rising all the time, happening now. Toxic waters and powerful threats. It's 3 p.m. Central Time in New Orleans, where holdouts may soon be physically forced to leave, and draining floodwaters are carrying filth and disease with them. We'll get an aerial view this hour. What's going on? Paying the price as the human toll becomes more evident, President Bush is asking Congress to deliver billions of additional dollars to the Gulf Coast. Will that ease the finger pointing? And a final journey for the Chief Justice of the United States. It's 4 p.m. here in Washington, where William Rehnquist is set to be buried now that the president and this capital city have said farewell. I'm Wolf Blitzer. You're in the Situation Room. Our authorities in New Orleans are using their powers of persuasion to try to get holdouts to leave their homes. Evacuating the last 10,000 or so residents is a critical mission underway right now. Police say there still are many people who simply won't get out. Mayor Ray Nagin has ordered officers to use force if necessary, but active duty U.S. troops say they will not use force. They will not take part in that effort. The Environmental Protection Agency, meanwhile, confirms today that initial floodwater samples indicate high levels of E. coli and other bacteria, as well as lead. They stress no one should drink the floodwater, especially children. And the dollar figure is official. The president wants Congress to approve another $51.8 billion, that's billion with a B, to pay for hurricane recovery. That's on top of the $10.5 billion approved earlier, already in the pipeline. On the security front right now, there are reports from New Orleans of shots being fired at workers on cell phone towers trying to restore some service. But New Orleans Police Superintendent Eddie Compass says lawlessness has subsided tremendously. Checking searches and rescues. What's going on right now? The U.S. military is solidifying a plan for recovering bodies in New Orleans that includes dividing the city into grids. Meanwhile, the U.S. Air Force reports hundreds of Air Force reservists based in New Orleans or Mississippi are unaccounted for after Katrina. And more on the financial impact of all of this. The Congressional Budget Office says Katrina cost the U.S. more than 400,000 jobs, will cost the U.S. more than 400,000 jobs in the coming months, and cuts the nation's economic growth by as much as a full percentage point. Let's get to New Orleans right away, where the mayor says the familiar sounds of jazz and laughter have been replaced by the whir of helicopters and Army vehicles. CNN's Jeff Bernanke is in New Orleans. He's joining us now live with more. Jeff?
That's right, Wolf. And you were talking about the mayor insisting that everybody evacuate the city. The police chief saying he's going to wait out a while. He's going to wait until the people volunteer to leave. As you pointed out, Wolf, about 10,000 people still in this city, a lot of them in the French Quarter. French Quarter, as you know, is on higher ground, wasn't affected much by Hurricane Katrina. But the most significant thing is New Orleans is a bowl, and most of the water has accumulated in the CBD part of the city and towards uptown. That means if anyone leaves their home and walks about, the dangers of getting diseases are high, everything from cholera to typhoid. This is why all officials are insisting New Orleans must be vacated so that the job of draining the water, which has begun, it's going to take anywhere from 36 to 80 days. That job is going to be difficult. It's going to be tedious. They want the city empty so that they could do that and the people return eventually, Wolf.
There's a lot of concern. Environmentalists right now, the Environmental Protection Agency and other environmentalists are concerned that all this dirty, filthy, toxic water that is trying to be drained, pushed out of the city, it'll go into Lake Pontchartrain or the Mississippi or the Gulf of Mexico. That could seriously jeopardize drinking water and the entire coastal area for some time to come. What are officials where you are saying, Jeff?
They're saying the exact same thing, Wolf. But listen, this is the priority now. Get the water out of the city. They will deal with that problem when they get to it. And there are emergency services working on the water, working on the electricity, working on the sanitation. What's immediate right now, Wolf, is that because that water is so fetid, it's filled with corpses, with sewage, with waste, with garbage, they need to drain that water out as soon as possible. Wherever they drain it, they will deal with the other problems as they become apparent, Wolf.
What's the latest on looting, based on what your own eyewitness account and what you're hearing, Jeff?
Well, Wolf, right now, down to a minimum. Yes, there are patrols going out everywhere in parts of the city, and there's some parts of the city which we've walked about, and we find some National Guardsmen from this state or that state, and they tell us, don't go beyond this point because there's activity in a certain building. But it's down to a minimum, Wolf. Looting happened, I think, mostly in the first several days. It's now down because the security presence is so massive. National Guardsmen, security forces, state troopers from at least a dozen states from across the union. So again, it's down to a minimum. People more concerned now about their health and not about anything else, Wolf.
All right, Jeff Kornangi, we'll check back with you. Jeff, thank you very much. Delia Labar is one of those New Orleans residents staying put. She says the city is not completely destroyed and should not be abandoned. She's joining us now on the phone from the Warehouse District, which is near downtown and which is not underwater. Delia, thank you very much for joining us. Explain to our viewers why you want to risk your life with all the filth and the toxic waste and the potential life-threatening diseases, why you want to risk your life to stay where you are.
Mr. Blitzer, thank you, but I think you're exaggerating just a little bit. We're high and dry. It's not like that here. A large segment of the city is not underwater. Those areas are away quite a distance from us, and we're fine. We're safe. We have food. We have clean water. They turned the water back on. The electricity is supposed to be back on any moment. It is already on in some areas of the CBD. Central Business District is not underwater. Uptown is all dry.
So let me ask you a question, Delia. Why is the mayor demanding that you leave if it's okay?
The mayor is, I haven't heard this. I don't have batteries for the radio right now. I've heard a different story every day, almost every hour. State policemen said, they don't know. It's different every moment. Who knows? But, he's I don't know. Sometimes I think it seems like things need to be decoded. I don't know why they're saying what they're saying. If they mean that for everyone or just in the flooded areas.
Delia, hold on for 1 second. I just want to interrupt for a moment because as we're watching this story unfold, we're also watching another important story unfold right here in the nation's capital. You're looking at these live pictures coming out of the church here, the Catholic Church, St. Matthew's in Washington, where the funeral service, the memorial service for the late Chief Justice William Rehnquist has just concluded, the casket being carried out. Some of those individuals that I see there I recognize as former law clerks of of William Rehnquist, Supreme Court law clerks, and they're the pallbearers. They're carrying that casket into this hearse, which will take the coffin, the casket, to Arlington National Cemetery here in Washington for final burial. The service was about 2 hours by my reckoning, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours or so. The President of the United States speaking at the service, as well as others, close family, friends. I believe our Joe Johns is there. Joe, where are you right now?
Well, if I'm across the street looking essentially at what you're seeing, the family now trailing behind the casket, getting ready to make their way over to Arlington Cemetery, a private service. This was, as you said, an hour and a half, 2 hours long. The President of the United States did give remarks, we're told in part, spoke about 9 minutes. He said there, it is a rare man who can hold a prominent position in Washington for more than 30 years and leave behind only good feelings and admiration. That's what William Rehnquist did. He carried himself with dignity, but without pretense. He earned a place among the greatest justices. Wolf.
We see the other justices walking down the stairs. You see Sandra Day O'Connor right there in the middle of the screen. Stephen Breyer, another justice. Clarence Thomas in the middle of the screen right now. Were all the justices, based on what you know, Joe, there, the other 8 justices?
I believe they were. I was told that, in fact, they would be here, although I didn't count one by one as they went in. Sandra Day O'Connor, we're told, also gave remarks inside. I wasn't able to get in simply because they took down the magnetometers, and the president was coming, so security is very high here. We are told she gave personal remembrances, told the story essentially of the life of the Chief Justice. Also, members of the Rehnquist family spoke as well, Wolf.
The whole nature of this service, it was a private service at the request of the family. There were no cameras allowed inside, and burial at Arlington National Cemetery will be private as well. What was the thinking behind that? Do you know?
Well, I can tell you that the Chief Justice certainly did have an opportunity for the public to pay their respects, and the public part of this remembrance for the Chief Justice, as you know, occurred over at the Supreme Court starting yesterday at 10 o'clock, 10:30, going into the night. And frankly, I have to tell you, this is a big church, but not that big. Only so many people can fit into this church, and a number of members of the United States Senate, obviously, House of Representatives, colleagues from the law, pretty well filled up from what I can tell. So it may have just simply been an issue of capacity, Wolf.
All right, this hearse will drive across the Potomac River to Arlington National Cemetery for burial services there. That too will be private. Joe, thank you very much. We're going to take a quick break. Much more of our special coverage, the state of emergency in New Orleans, Mississippi, and Alabama. We're going to get back to that story after the short break.
There's an even better way to care for your nest egg. Objective financial advice. A.G. Edwards. For 118 years, fully invested in our clients.
What cooks like butter, spreads like butter, and has a fresh dairy taste like butter, without the cholesterol and high saturated fat? Smart Balance Buttery Spread. Smart Balance just received another Best Taste Award and is endorsed by professional chefs. It's the only spread with a patented balance of fats to help increase HDL good cholesterol and avoids trans fat naturally, not artificially as some spreads do. Smart Balance. You're going to love that buttery taste.
The Subaru Outback. The go-anywhere, do-anything sport utility wagon. It makes other vehicles seem prehistoric, or at least pre-Subaru. Subaru Outback.
Well, you never know when you might encounter a beer without character. That's why we test our recruits for every situation.
Great tasting, less filler, Miller Lite.
No, we're not superheroes, more like ministers of culture.
Intentional taste match. Character, substance, personal style.
A lot of people have great taste and don't even know it. We help them see their potential.
Intentional taste mask.
Intentional taste mask.
Don't cry on me.
I teach taste. That's what I do.
Character.
Now at CNN.com, finding loved ones in the aftermath of Katrina. See rescues and reunions on free video, plus how you can help, donate, or volunteer. Complete coverage on Katrina evacuees, now at CNN.com. CNN tomorrow on American Morning. Katrina, the survivors, the heroes, the work ahead. On the ground and around the region, get the first real news and pictures from overnight. American Morning. CNN tomorrow starts 7 Eastern.
Now to the survivors of the storm who found a home away from home in Houston. CNN's Betty Wynn is joining us from the shelter complex over at the Astrodome. Betty, what's going on there?
There's been a lot of developments out here today. Wolf, one thing that was really quite surprising to us is the number of people who remain in these 4 main shelters here in Houston, which includes the Astrodome. We were hearing last night there were some 27,000. Well, today we've learned, after a head count, that there are only 8,100 people remaining in these shelters. So it shows you that folks are venturing out, they are finding homes, and they're leaving these shelters, which is another reason why there was a big push today to get children enrolled in the Houston Independent School District. There are about 13,000 seats available, and today that registration started. Tomorrow school begins for those kids. But amid all of this, of course, people are still looking for loved ones, and we have a man here with us right now who is looking for his daughter and his 2 grandchildren. We have George Parker with us out of New Orleans. Now, the last time you spoke with your daughter, that was quite a conversation. Tell us about that.
Well, the last time I spoke to her, she called me Monday morning. That was the morning of the hurricane. And she told me, Dad, we're taking in water. The water is in the house now. And I asked her, well, how far is the water in the house? She said, up to my hip. I said, up to your hip?
Wow.
She said, yeah, you got to send someone here to get us out of here. So I said, well, I'm going to come over there to help you. So I tried to leave the Superdome, but they wouldn't let me leave.
Because you were already in a shelter at the Superdome.
I was in the Superdome. So they wouldn't let me leave. So I give my cell phone to the National Guard that was there, and he talked to her. And she explained to him where she was at and the location, how to find her. And that was the last time I heard from her.
So you don't know if they got her or not?
I can't be sure. I can't be sure because her cell phone went dead, and I haven't heard a word from her since.
And she was there with your 2 grandchildren. Tell us about them.
Yeah, well, one of the little girl. The little girl is about 15 years old. The little boy is about 12.
Goodness, you must just be heartsick worrying about them. Let's give a phone number out for people who may know them, who can contact you and let you know if they're alive, or maybe, hopefully, they're watching this and can contact you.
The cell number is 458-4412, and I have it open 24/7.
The number again is 504 area code 458-4412. George Parker, we sure hope you get to talk with your daughter and that your daughter and grandchildren are alive.
I hope so. I'm worried to death about them.
I imagine you are. Thank you for speaking with us. So, and he is just one, Wolf, of many people we've spoken with today searching for their loved ones. Many of them are just really heartsick over the whole situation, and they don't want to leave here until they find them because they're afraid once they venture out and find other housing, they don't know how they're going to get in touch with those loved ones.
Our heart goes out to them, and we pray that they will be reunited. Thanks, Betty, very much, and wish our best to George as well. The war of words continues here in Washington over the government's response to Hurricane Katrina. But officials seem to agree on this much. A massive amount of federal money is needed in this disaster zone. Let's go live to our congressional correspondent, Ed Henry. He's joining us now live. Ed, what's going on with the money part of this story?
Wolf, a staggering pile of money, in fact, flowing from here on Capitol Hill to the Gulf region. President Bush now seeking an additional $51.8 billion on top of the $10 billion that was approved quickly by Congress last week. They're expecting that this $51 billion will carry the relief efforts for another 5 weeks. That's about $1.5 billion a day. And take a look at the overall price tag. Senate Majority Leader Bill Frist today told me he thinks that the total cost could be somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 billion. $200 billion. Big number. This $51 billion piece of it expected to be approved on a bipartisan basis tomorrow by the Congress. But I can tell you, Wolf, it's probably about the last bit of bipartisan business we're going to see from the Congress on this issue right now.
And I take it, Ed, there was a dramatic few moments last night when Congress had some private closed-door meetings, and some Bush cabinet members were really grilled pretty hard by not only Democrats but by Republicans as well. What happened?
That's right. They were grilled for about 3 hours, closed-door meeting on the House floor. The entire House of Representatives basically ripping into several Bush cabinet secretaries. At one point, we're told that one Republican stood up and basically gave a lot of the cabinet secretaries there failing marks for their performance in the early days of the relief efforts. But also today we saw a double-barreled assault from the Democratic leaders here on Capitol Hill. Senator Harry Reid, first of all, coming out and saying any Senate investigation of what went wrong should include a review of whether or not President Bush's vacation in Texas contributed to the slow response by the federal government. Republicans furious that he's doing that. Then House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi at an event commemorating the 4th anniversary of 9/11 coming up this weekend. She basically compared that tragedy to the current tragedy, saying that from New York to New Orleans, the Bush administration has not kept the American people safe. I pressed Pelosi on the fact that, in fact, President Bush says that this blame game, as he calls it, is not actually helping the relief workers. It's actually slowing down the relief effort, and it should not go on. Basically, Nancy Pelosi shot back that the president exercised poor judgment by picking Mike Brown as FEMA director, and she recounted a confrontation she had with the president yesterday.
He chose someone with absolutely no credentials. And you know what? When I said to the president that he should fire Michael Brown, he said, why would I do that? I said, because of all that went wrong, with all that didn't go right last week. And he said, what didn't go right? Oblivious, in denial, dangerous.
Nancy Pelosi there suggesting that the commander-in-chief is dangerous to the American people. The Republican National Committee Chairman Ken Mehlman just put out a tough statement saying that it is completely over the top, a sign that even over these relief efforts, there's real partisanship digging in here, Wolf.
All right, Ed, thank you very much. Ed Henry reporting for us. Bush administration and other GOP sources tell our White House correspondent Dana Bash that there's some talk out there about the president addressing a joint session of the U.S. Congress about the Katrina disaster. But a senior official cautions those are just, in his words, rumblings at this point, and nothing has been decided yet. Jack Cafferty is standing by in New York, and he's asking for another, you got another question this hour, don't you, Jack?
Indeed I do, Mr. Blitzer. We've found a bit of a silver lining in this Katrina story. And it's as follows. For the first time in a very long time, television newscasts have not been littered with the tabloid garbage that tends to characterize a lot of them. Hurricane Katrina has rightfully bumped stories about Michael Jackson and a missing teen in Aruba and Martha Stewart's ankle bracelet right off the screen. Matt Wells writes for the BBC. He writes this, quote, American broadcast journalism just might have grown its spine back thanks to Katrina, unquote. The TV media have done a public service by reporting on the flooding, the devastation, the human suffering all up and down the Gulf Coast. But perhaps more importantly, they have honed in on the government's feeble response to one of the largest natural disasters in U.S. history. So here's the question. Did Hurricane Katrina change your view of television news? Cafferty Files, CNN.com.
I'm anxious, very anxious to hear what our viewers think about that, Jack. Thank you very much. Later this hour, Jack will be back, read some of your emails. So what do you think? Will New Orleans ever completely recover? The results of our new CNN USA Today Gallup poll may surprise you. Stay with us.
The aftermath of Katrina. Stay on top of this developing story. Live updates at the top of every hour, around the clock. Stay with CNN.
Let Empire Glass replace your cracked windshield, and we'll give you 24 free dinners to Sherry's Restaurants, where you'll enjoy great food and delicious pies all day, every day. And we offer free mobile service to your home or office. So for the highest quality windshields and 24 free dinners to Sherry's, call Empire Glass today at 503-251-9881. And remember, when you think glass, think Empire.
Check out the new hit movies you can order on demand. And look what you can order right now.
He who is without sin cast the first stone.
It slipped. Don't miss Tommy Lee Jones and Cedric the Entertainer in the hilarious comedy Man of the House.
I got nobody but you, Frankie.
Well, you've got me. $1 Million Baby is the Academy Award winner for Best Picture of the Year. And it's available now on demand. Hit movies without the trip to the video store. On demand with Comcast Digital Cable.
Remarkable new 9/11 stories and all new CNN Sunday night, 8 Eastern.
Introducing the 2006 Impala. Available with the powerful 303 horsepower small block V8. It's a whole new animal. Chevy Impala, an American revolution.
Do you, Morgan Ambrose Robert, take this woman to be your lawful wedded wife?
Of course, that very much depends on what you mean by the question, do you? Forward-looking statements involve risk and uncertainties. we're opening up a can of worms here. No single answer readily presents itself. I mean, have we really explored every avenue? Have the parties made certain representations, warranties, and agreements in connection with the merger? Do the parties agree to be subject to the satisfaction of the regulatory approvals as required to consummate the transaction? Who amongst us will ever know?
I do.
I pronounce you man and wife. You may kiss the bride.
Less talk. Make it happen. The Royal Bank of Scotland Group.
We spoke with him last hour. We'll be speaking with him again live this hour, the helicopter reporter J.T. Alpa. But earlier today, he flew over an area. There was a store owner at the corner of Claiborne and Desiree Streets in the New Orleans area. The store owner wades through the water to a store. Watch this and listen to J.T. Alpa.
Getting a close look. There you go. That is Calvin. And hopefully he can see us. He's putting his shoes back on. I don't know if he's going to wade back in these waters to check on his store. That might be a possibility. Okay, so Calvin now wading in the waters back across to check on his store, and it's, again, we tried to get Calvin out and get him back to his wife Kim and his kids, but refusing, and it's just walking around. He doesn't understand that walking around these waters is really endangering his life. He has no idea the danger that he may be in right now. The lower third to right now, he has no idea the danger he is just by being in this water. He's put his shoes on. Now he's coming up to the truck and going back towards his store. Going into his truck, and we just wish that he would just get out of that area.
He's clearly determined to stay put, at least for the time being, despite all the warnings that it's so dangerous to be in that part of New Orleans, especially to be in that water. We're going to be speaking live with J.T. Alpa. That's coming up shortly. For those who managed to get back into their communities, we're going to show you some of their photos right now. Our internet reporter, Jackie Schechner, is checking the situation online. What are you picking up, Jackie?
Well, Wolf, with all of this devastation, people are very much interested in finding out how their streets did, how their homes did, how their neighborhoods did. And that's one of the things the internet has been incredibly useful for. We start in Biloxi, in the Biloxi area. This is on Flickr.com, the group photo blog. Take a look at this along Highway 90. I think a motel used to be here. Another one of these photos. It looked like a war zone. Blogs have also been an incredible source of information, and now of photographs as people end up back in their hometowns. This one, Brian Oberkirk, started this blog from Dallas. He's from Slidell, Louisiana, and he was interested in sorting through all of the rumor out there. Wanted to bring fact to the people from Slidell. He got back in over the weekend and was posting photographs. For example, he doesn't know how the rumor that the water tower went down got started, but take a look. That water tower still standing. Also, in the comment section of his blog, people were asking specifically about North Boulevard. Well, Brian took a drive down North Boulevard and posted some of those photographs. We have a good success story for you from a blog. This is Hurricane Katrina refugee. This is Laurel, who was staying with her family, went back to Slidell, Louisiana as well. Doesn't know how she got so lucky, but take a look at her photograph here. This is their home. This is the after photo. They did not have as much damage as they suspected. Now, not everybody can get back, but we wanted to give you this one resource at NOLA.com. How did my neighborhood do? What happened to my neighborhood? You can head back over there, Wolf, and take a look at how your area fared.
All right, Jackie, thank you very much. We're going to get back to this story in a moment. The motorcade carrying the casket of the late Chief Justice William Rehnquist to Arlington National Cemetery has just crossed into the Potomac River into Virginia, Arlington National Cemetery in northern Virginia. You see the escort, the police escort for the motorcade. Our Jeffrey Toobin was inside the church for the memorial service, and give our viewers, Jeff, a little sense of what was said during that service.
You know, Wolf, it was really a very personal service. It put a lot of feeling into the, who William Rehnquist was, somewhat distant figure to most Americans. Two of his three children spoke, a granddaughter spoke, as well as the president and Justice O'Connor. And one of the things that was really very vivid in the in the service was how hard he fought this cancer and how optimistic he was. His pastor, Pastor Evans from his Lutheran church in McLean, said that last Monday, 6 days ago, he was, or a little more than 6 days, 9 days ago, was expecting to be back on the bench. That his decline was that fast. He expected to be on the bench on Monday, and he died on Saturday. And you know, the humor of William Rehnquist was much on display. In one of his many visits to the emergency room over the last few months, one of the emergency room doctors asked him who his primary caregiver was, and he looked at the guy and he said, "My dentist." You know, that's the kind of mordant humor that William Rehnquist specialized in, and you really had a very good sense of the man here at St. Matthew's Church today.
What was the message from the President of the United States?
Well, the message from the President was very much respectful in terms of, you know, how much he had accomplished, but also, again, a tribute to the man who cared as much for his family as he did for the court. And you know, the President called the Chief Justice one of our greatest Chief Justices, and he talked about, you know, how he struck out on his own in Phoenix, moving there after he served in World War II, and how he, you know, had contributed so much to the law. But the message very much in the court, in church today, was about William Rehnquist, the man, more than William Rehnquist, the justice.
Jeff Toobin, thanks very much. Jeff's our senior legal analyst. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, certainly nature is responsible for the storm, but we want to talk a little bit more about the storm of controversy that has erupted here in Washington as well as all over the country over who's responsible for the response. Coming up, that's coming up. Also, aid is in the disaster zone right now, but why did it arrive relatively late? We'll talk about that with two of our experts. Stay with us.
You make a living by what you get and a life by what you give. That's why you'll find us helping our neighbors fix up their homes, or study after school for a physics test, or get ready for Mrs. Quinlan's first grade class. Because the men and women of Lockheed Martin believe that giving back is the very best way forward.
There's an even better way to care for your nest egg. Objective financial advice. A.G. Edwards. For 118 years, fully invested in our clients.
How many days is 3 weeks?
21.
Won't you miss your room?
A little bit.
Won't you miss Rocky?
You know what I'm gonna miss the most?
What?
This face.
Mr. Buckley, welcome to Residence Inn.
Residence Inn. All suites with all the comforts.
I'm thinking of a number between 450 and 850. Do you know what it is? It's my credit score, and it happens to be 720. When I apply for credit, that's the number lenders look at. The higher my credit score, the better chance I have of saving a lot of money on a new car, a refi, insurance, or even credit cards. It's as simple as that. Tell you what else is simple. Staying on top of my credit score and my credit report at freecreditreport.com. I just log on to freecreditreport.com, and within seconds, I can see my credit score, and I check to make sure the information in my credit report is accurate, so I get the credit I deserve. Do you know your credit score? Do you know what's in your credit report? You can find out right now at freecreditreport.com. You can even print it out if you want to. How much easier could it get? Log on to freecreditreport.com. Get the most out of your credit and get the most out of your life at freecreditreport.com. That's freecreditreport.com.
Come to Priceline now for the best deals on airfare. Name your own price and save up to $100 off other leading travel sites on each ticket you buy.
That's it.
Only at the new Priceline.
I want to check back with helicopter reporter JT Alpa, who's been giving us some remarkable perspective on the disaster scene in New Orleans. He's joining us on the phone. Earlier today, when you were flying over New Orleans, JT, we saw a deceased. We saw a dead body. I don't want to roll that video now. You can see it. Tell our viewers where you were and what was going on.
Well, Wolf, we were over the areas of throughout the New Orleans area. I haven't specifically been looking for a lot of the deceased. We wanted to very purposely stay away from that. We understand that these waters are starting to recede, and some of these bodies are going to start surfacing, but we intentionally wanted to stay away from it. What you're seeing here is the federal command post that's being set up as the morgue. They're bringing in the deceased and respectfully processing them and refrigerating the bodies to be transported to areas where they can be identified. So again, we're purposefully staying away from showing the bodies, but this is the federal command post morgue that you're looking at right here.
Right on that little bridge and in the midst of all this floodwater.
That's right. They're using that as a boat ramp to transport the bodies, and again, they're handling them very, very respectfully and processing them, trying to identify them and notify their family members. And it's a very detailed process, but it's going very well for them, and as well as it can be expected.
Now look at this video. This is something very, very poignant. It's going to be very moving to many of our viewers. Some of these are firefighters from New York City who have come to New Orleans to help out, and it's almost the 4th anniversary of 9/11. Talk a little bit about why these men and women are there, and they've risked so much to come there.
And absolutely, it was a very surreal moment for us when we pushed in and we saw their FDNY on the back of their turnout coats, identifying them as one of the bravest firefighting teams in the world and departments. And again, like you said, Wolf, coming up on the 4th anniversary of September 11th, we were moved to see them come down here and help the New Orleans Fire Department fight some of these fires. And I can tell you they did an excellent job on this little fire that was burning just south of the downtown area. They went in and attacked this fire, as you can see, and just helped them knock it down within a half hour, 45 minutes. And these brave firefighters coming in, and after they've been through so much and putting themselves through this, coming down to a disaster scene like this, it's got to bring back some very, very bad memories for these guys. But their willingness to help actually overwhelms and prioritizes over their personal mental stability over bringing back bad memories of September 11th.
JT, we're going to see you up in the skies pretty soon as you get you heading back up there?
Absolutely. We're going to be launching here in about 20 minutes. We're getting some fuel here at Camp Helena on the Interstate 10 freeway, just a little bit east, a little bit west of where you saw that federal morgue set up.
We'll bring your live pictures to our viewers. JT Alpa, thanks very much. Thank your entire team from Helena over there for us. You're doing a remarkable, amazing job for the pool, the news media pool. All of us are grateful to you. Are Americans pointing fingers when it comes to the government's response to the hurricane? We polled across the country over the past 2 days, and our senior political analyst, Bill Schneider, is joining us now live with some results. So what do Americans think about the president's response to Katrina? First of all, Bill.
Well, the president does not get high marks, but not as negative as you might think, given the torrent of criticism. 35% say he's done a good job, 42% say he's done a bad job. And this response is intensely partisan. Republicans overwhelmingly give the president positive marks. Democrats overwhelmingly say he's done a bad job. So there's no evidence that the country is coming together behind the president in this crisis.
What about the state and local officials? How do they emerge from this latest poll?
Mixed reviews. 37% say they did a good job, 35% bad. But there is no partisanship here. Democrats and Republicans give state and local officials that same mixed assessment. Ask about President Bush and you find a country divided. But the farther you get from the president, the less you find any division.
So who do Americans hold responsible for the problems that erupted?
That's what we asked. And the number one answer is nobody. It's an act of God. After that, 25% hold state and local officials responsible for the problems. 18% say federal agencies. Only 13% say President Bush is most responsible for the problems.
Do Americans want someone to be fired?
No, they do not. Despite all the criticism of federal agencies and bureaucrats, people do not think any top official in the federal emergency management should be fired. The public doesn't seem to be in a mood for any recriminations right now, except for one thing: gas prices. Nearly 80% say they think oil companies are taking advantage of the situation by charging unfair prices. That is where people see wrongdoing.
All right, Bill Schneider, our senior political analyst, thanks for those numbers as usual. Do you think New Orleans will ever completely recover? We also asked that question over the past 2 days, and only 42% of those polled in our CNN USA Today Gallup poll said yes. 56% said no. But when asked if New Orleans should be rebuilt, almost 2/3 of those questions say yes. When we come back, the blame game. We'll have more on what is being done, what is being said. I'll speak with two of our analysts about the political implications. Stay with us.
I write underground comics, and I got my latest idea at work, The Actuary. By day, just a mild-mannered accountant, crunching numbers, deciphering the tax codes, spreadsheets, but at night, a crime-solving mathematician with laser vision. I do it all on my computer, write, draw, and publish online. You may not always get his man, but he always gets the girl.
Start something heroic. Start anything you like with a world of software and devices that run on Windows.
Here's a fun fact. Erected in 1963, the walnut stands 15 feet high.
I'll be in the car.
Go where you want with Drive Free at Avis.
Orca! Orca! Oh, I love Orca.
I thought you loved the humpback.
I recently changed my mind.
But I thought we established that the Orca was mine.
Now rent 3 times and get a free weekend on us. Find our lowest prices at avis.com.
Privacy, equality, the right to choose. Fundamental freedoms Americans have cherished for generations. But John Roberts dismisses one of our established liberties as the so-called right to privacy, and co-wrote a brief arguing that Roe v. Wade should be overruled. Roberts' legal record raises questions on whether he accepts the right to privacy. There's just too much at stake to let John Roberts become a decisive vote on the Supreme Court.
Excuse me, what is that?
ING. They're the financial services company that's all about fresh thinking. They're full of new ideas, so you're ready for whatever comes along.
I know about ING.
I want to have a cappuccino.
What's that?
Why can't we have a cappuccino?
Have to go to the car now.
You never have any fun. You never let me do anything fun.
It's a man struggling with his inner child.
You're so mean! A cappuccino, please.
Ask your financial professional about ING.
Blame game to avoid or accountability that someone should claim. We're talking about that. The slow response to Hurricane Katrina. Congress will be investigating. Joining us now in our discussion, Democratic strategist, CNN political analyst James Carville, as well as our other political analyst, Tori Clark, a former spokeswoman over at the Pentagon. James, first of all, before we get to any of that, you're from Louisiana. Your family and your friends, are they okay?
Yeah, but my sister is from Slidell. We just did a piece. She lost a house there, but she's staying with us. She said we're physically fine. Baton Rouge is where most of my family is located. In fact, all of it now, besides myself, and we're overcrowded, but we're fine, and it's you know, it's going to be that way for a while. I think everybody understands that.
Is it smart right now for Democrats to be calling for all these investigations in the midst of this recovery, this relief effort, because there'll be plenty of time for recriminations and blame down the road? Is it smart right now?
I think we're missing a point. I think Senator Frist asked Senator Collins to launch the investigation too. Right, Senator Bill Frist, Republican Majority Leader in the Senate. Whether how can you not, with something like this, take a look at it? Whether we should do it tomorrow or whether we should do it next week or next month is something else. But sure, it's going to have to be done, and it's going to have to be done quickly. And I don't think there's any doubt about that. Some people say, oh, it's a blame game. Other people say it's finger pointing. Other people said, when is someone going to take responsibility? The truth of the matter is, in any democracy, a byproduct of the democracy is that you have this kind of thing that happens.
The argument, Tori, is that the further you get away from the event, memories fade a little bit, documents have a tendency to disappear, and that you should get a hold on it right away before any of those problems can emerge.
Look, I think it's completely appropriate. We have investigations, commissions, all of the above, and they better be really, really inclusive. Federal role, state, local, role of Congress, include everybody in this, because everybody has a responsibility. It is a matter of timing. I know the date certain in which it is appropriate to start these things, but I know when we're seeing the kind of footage we just saw, on CNN, bodies still being taken out, still trying to rescue people, trying to help people who are in dire, dire straits. That is not the time to take the leaders of these various federal, state, and local agencies out and hauling them in front of Congress. It's just not the time.
You want to respond to that?
Well, I mean, it may very well be, but the time, I don't, if I were some of these people, I would say it's never the time. But there's got to be accountability and responsibility. And the truth of the matter is, you know, when you do that, sure, there's never the right time to do it in terms of when you mess up. There's never the right time to be held accountable for it. But at some point, they're going to have to do this. And look, Senator Frisk called for this. Everybody agrees that there's going to be one great reckoning here.
What's your advice to the president? How should he deal with the political fallout from this, the strategy right now?
No, I don't think he should worry about the political fallout, and I know he's not worrying about the political fallout. What he's worried about is making sure those people that we see every day are getting the kind of help they should get. I mean, people forget that, A, he's not running for re-election. Even if he were, that would not be his focus. His focus would be on helping these people. That's exactly where it should be. And I think Congress needs to be very careful as an institution here. You know, I hate polls, but they're not exactly doing great in the polls these days.
Well, the Congress, as you know, is a Republican-led House and a Republican-led Senate.
I think Republicans and Democrats need to worry about how they act and behave in all this. Are they going to be focused on results and helping people, or are they going to be focused on the blame game? I mean, look at what you and Bill Schneider were just talking about. Overwhelmingly, people said now is not the time to be chopping off heads and firing people. Get the help to the people who need it.
You can't tell a 4-year-old that you have to take responsibility for your homework and not tell people run the federal government that you shouldn't take responsibility for the greatest natural disaster we had, much of which I suspect, and most people suspect, could have been mitigated through some proper planning. But that's the larger point is if we talk about timing, we're talking about weeks here, but we sure can't send a message to America that, oh, no one is going to take responsibility for this. Somebody will, and I agree completely. You have to look at every layer, what happened in terms of the Corps engineers, the levees, which I'm highly interested in, what happened in terms of the response of everybody. And you got to have that because you're never going to get people to take responsibility if they don't act as the government does.
To listen to what Senator Hillary Clinton said earlier today on American Morning here on CNN.
What I'd like to do is get it back to the level of competency and leadership that it had during the Clinton administration, when it was independent, when the director had actual experience in dealing with disasters, and when he had a cabinet rank level so that there was no doubt that when a disaster struck, he was in charge and he was able to marshal all the resources of the federal government.
She was referring to FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. What say you, Tori?
Well, I'll tell you, there's going to be a lot of competition for political opportunism here. Plenty of competition for it. And again, I think everybody in Congress needs to watch that. But if it weren't so serious, I would find it amusing, these members of Congress who start saying FEMA.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second because the Speaker of the House, Dennis Hastert, speaking on this very subject right now. I want to hear what he has to say.
Congress will take up several bills to assist with the relief and rebuilding efforts, including one that removes some of the normal restrictions and red tape so that those in need can get welfare and others aid quickly. We also have bills to get our federal court system back up and moving and to ensure that students forced to withdraw from college because of the hurricane aren't forced to pay their student aid or grants or scholarships back to the federal government. We're also taking up a bill that gives FEMA the authority to borrow more money if necessary for the National Flood Insurance Program, and we're looking at another measure that would allow FEMA to remove debris from private lands. All of these bills have one goal: to get help to the people of the Gulf Coast and to get it to them now. It's a massive effort, and it's going to take continued effort from not just the federal government, but from the state and local authorities also. Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for your tremendous leadership. Let us be clear. We should not diminish in any way the fact that there were acts of heroism by individuals and victories by our first responders who risked their lives. I was on the ground for 2 days and got to see these great victories firsthand. But we all agree that in many areas, the initial relief response to Hurricane Katrina was unacceptable at the local, state, and federal levels. That's why today the House and Senate are forming a bipartisan committee made up of senior members. This joint committee will be tasked with reviewing at all levels of government the immediate preparation and recovery from Hurricane Katrina. The committee is to report its findings to the Congress no later than February 15, 2006. Americans deserve answers. We must do all we can to learn from this tragedy, improve the system, and protect all of our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Bill Frist and Dennis Hastert, the Republican leaders in the House, the Senate and the House, announcing that they're forging this bicameral House-Senate joint investigation. What do you think?
Well, that pretty much puts an end to the argument, doesn't it? There's going to be a joint committee looking into this. We'll see what kind of job they do, and I suspect that there'll be other ones. But again, you cannot have a failure of this magnitude without getting some answers and getting them quickly. And there are a whole bunch of aspects of this that we don't know, and hopefully this committee will do a good job.
One quick thought from you, Tori.
Sure, and I'll get lots of hate mail for this, but there should have been a Democrat standing there next to them when they made that announcement.
You get hate mail from Republicans, but not from Democrats.
Yes.
All right, Tori Clark, thanks very much. James Carville, good luck to you, to both of you. There's lots of criticism here in Washington about how the U.S. government responded to this hurricane. But what are they saying overseas? That story when we come back.
Just announced, the Chevy employee discount continues on 05 vehicles and is now available on 06 full-size trucks. From the family of Chevy trucks, the most dependable, longest-lasting trucks on the road. The discount price is right on the window. That's the Chevy Total Value Promise. Right now, get a 2006 Silverado 1500 regular cab WT for under $16,200. See your local Chevy dealer today.
The aftermath of Katrina. Stay on top of this developing story. Live updates at the top of every hour, around the clock. Stay with CNN.
This Empire Glass replace your cracked windshield, and we'll give you 24 free dinners to Sherry's Restaurants, where you'll enjoy great food and delicious pies all day, every day. And we offer free mobile service to your home or office. So for the highest quality windshields and 24 free dinners to Sherry's, call Empire Glass today at 503-251-9881. And remember, when you think glass, think Empire.
What if everyone had the same extraordinary service as Northwest Community Credit Union? Northwest Community Credit Union, where you're more than welcome, and where the rates are as extraordinary as the service.
Right now, buying a used car is as easy as 1, 2, 3. It's Bob Lampier's Beaverton Honda used car sell-off. 95 Nissan Altima GXE, just $39.90. 98 Ford Explorer XLT, only $89.90. 97 Toyota 4Runner SR5, just $12,990. Plus hundreds more to choose from. And each car comes with Bob's famous 7-day right of exchange and 6-month, 6,000-mile warranty. Just buy Bob and save. Hurry to Beaverton Honda Used Cars.
Comcast.
Pay-per-view.
An unbreakable will and a daring to triumph over adversity. These are the foundation of our grand becoming. For our greatest glory lies not in never falling, but rising every time we fall.
Order TNA Wrestling Unbreakable, live September 11th. Call Comcast now.
Walsh on tracking the missing after Hurricane Katrina. Larry King, CNN Tonight.
The aftermath of Hurricane Katrina isn't just making headlines here in the United States, it's getting lots of coverage around the world. Our Zane Vergy is joining us from the CNN Center with a closer look. Give us a little of that international perspective, Zane.
Wolf, yeah, the latest reaction we're seeing today really mirrors the reaction here in the United States. There's shock, some real outrage, and lots of sympathy. In Canada, the Halifax Daily News in Nova Scotia is expressing solidarity today, writing this: close friends may bicker at times and even kick each other's shins on occasion, but in time of need, Canada and the United States are there for each other. South Africa's Cape Times writes, who would have thought that over 1 million American citizens would become refugees in their own country and flay their government for its failure to come to their aid, or that in the most advanced society in the world, which gave us ER, the TV show, the badly injured would be left for dead due to lack of assistance. And the Courier Herald, echoing really the same sentiment, writing this: watching the tragedy in New Orleans and the U.S. Gulf Coast region in the wake of Hurricane Katrina, one cannot but feel for the world's strongest and richest nations. Some British newspapers, meanwhile, are struck by plans to investigate the government's response to Katrina. Now, the headline in The Independent is this: Bush launches an inquiry and puts himself in charge of it. The article goes on to propose that the Bush presidency and his personal leadership are on the line. The Guardian newspaper, a left-leaning paper, also giving that story prominent play, with the headline, Cheney called in as Bush says he will lead his own inquiry into Katrina. The story also notes that Mr. Bush is dispatching the vice president to the hurricane zone to expedite aid. Well, coming up here in the Situation Room, Katrina and TV news. How do you feel about what you've been seeing and about the reporters covering this disaster? Your answers just ahead.
Closed captioning hours on CNN, sponsored in part by Aspercream, odor-free, fast pain relief.
Can an odor-free patch stand up to your back pain?
You benefit Aspercream.
New Aspercream patch. Maximum strength medicine that's odor-free. Body pain stop.
You benefit Aspercream.
Introducing the new Pedigree Slide Right Zipper Bag. Keeps every bite as fresh as the first.
Do you, Morgan Ambrose Robert, take this woman to be your lawful wedded wife?
Of course, that very much depends on what you mean by the question, do you? Forward-looking statements involve risk and uncertainties. We're opening up a can of worms here. No single answer readily presents itself. I mean, have we really explored every avenue? Have the parties made certain representations, warranties, and agreements in connection with the merger? Do the parties agree to be subject to the satisfaction of the regulatory approvals as required to consummate the transaction? Who amongst us will ever know?
I do.
I pronounce you man and wife. You may kiss the bride.
Less talk. Make it happen. The Royal Bank of Scotland Group.
What are you doing? I just got a new home loan from Ditech.com and paid off all my credit cards.
Consolidate bills with Ditech's flat fee home loan. The total lender fee is just $395. Call 1-800-DITECH-3.
Many people who've been diagnosed with depression are still waiting to feel relief. Maybe you've tried medicine, but you're still waiting to enjoy life again. If you're still feeling some of your symptoms or have stopped taking medicine altogether, it's time to stop waiting. Now there's hope. Go to lifeiswaiting.com or call this number today to find out about a free program that may help you and your doctor manage your depression in a way that works for you. The program brings together time-released medicine with free personalized support, including tools to aid your recovery, like a guide to help you talk to your doctor, a wellness planner, and a progress monitor that shows you how you're doing. If you still feel depressed, what are you waiting for? Call or go online today for your free program kit. Because your life is waiting.
Jack Cafferty's been reading your email on a subject, Jack, that hits very close to home.
Indeed, Wolf. The question this hour is this: did Hurricane Katrina change your view of television news? It's been pleasantly absent the tabloid garbage that tends to litter the TV screen, particularly on the 24/7 cable news networks. We had a lot of time to fill, and sometimes our selection of stories isn't the greatest in the world. Here's what some of you have written. Dan in Fremont, Indiana. For me, the jury is still out. I'm used to TV news people serving up softballs and failing to challenge the spin and the lies. We've yet to see whether their bodies will reject the spine transplants. Tamara in Denver, Colorado. Yes, it's definitely changed how I feel about TV news for now. Without them, thousands upon thousands of people would still be suffering. The juxtaposition of what officials were saying versus the pictures and reports from journalists were a stunning contrast. Don in Baltimore, Maryland, you bet it did, and for the better. For once, you reporters actually questioned the official word, the lying politicians and the big shot, ineffectual heads of the various agencies. Keep it up. I might just tune in more often. Paul in Asheville, North Carolina, no, but I can only hope the Katrina disaster has changed the focus of news organizations. Instead of the runaway bride, we got honest, gut-wrenching coverage of a runaway disaster. Please don't lose the sense of what's truly important in this world. Hint, it ain't Martha Stewart. And Carol in Largo, Florida writes this: it sure has changed my view of CNN. You guys are finally telling it like it is. Thank you. All of your reporters have been amazing. They should all get raises. Let me read that last part again. All of your reporters are amazing, and they should all get raises.
You think they're listening?
They should all get raises.
You think they're listening? You think they're listening, Jack?
Yeah, they won't listen, but it's a nice idea, Carol. Thank you.
All right, Jack. Thanks very much. It's 5 p.m. here in Washington, and you're in the Situation Room, where news and information from around the world arrive in one place simultaneously. Happening now, it's 4 p.m. Central Time in New Orleans, where some survivors are still refusing to leave that city despite a mandatory evacuation order. A deadly threat, new information about what exactly is in the water that's covering so much of New Orleans. As many as 1 million people displaced and now scattered across the country. We're tracking the evacuees this hour. I'm Wolf Blitzer. You're in the Situation Room. In the disaster zone, the mission is slowly turning from one of rescue and recovery to more of restoration and relief. Still critical. Getting money to the evacuees. Just a few hours ago, the director of FEMA, Michael Brown, said the agency will start giving debit cards to the displaced. Each card will have at least $2,000, putting much-needed money in the hands of those who've lost everything. Meanwhile, Katrina has turned a city that once had a high crime rate into what police now call one of the safest cities in the United States. Law enforcement in New Orleans say they're putting people in jail, even nabbing a shooting suspect firing on telephone workers. Besides law enforcement, authorities are putting out warnings not to drink the floodwaters. The Environmental Protection Agency says initial floodwater samples show high levels of E. coli and other bacteria, as well as lead. Now the situation in some of the states that we're following. First in Louisiana, officials think some 10,000, maybe 15,000 people remain in New Orleans. And adding to their danger, officials say they've counted 57 fires around the city so far. Over in Texas, 240,000 evacuees packing the state's shelters and hotels. 8,000 of them are staying on in the Houston Astrodome, the Reliance Center, and the Georgia Brown Convention Center. And on the state of Katrina and the U.S. economy, we're watching this. The Congressional Budget Office here in Washington says it could cost the U.S. more than 400,000 jobs in the coming months, and it could cost the nation's economic growth by as much as a full percentage point. Let's get to New Orleans right away, where the holdouts are holed up in their homes, and those who serve and protect them are putting out this message: voluntarily try to get out or be forced out. Those residents will be given a few days to flee, or else police say they could forcibly start removing them. Our chief international correspondent, Christiane Amanpour, is on the scene for us in New Orleans. She's joining us with much more now. Christiane?
Well, Wolf, as we've been discussing over the last few days, the issue of the filthy water is now becoming critical, with, as you say, bacteria and other filth and spreadable diseases being discovered in that water. It's not just decomposing bodies, but backed up sewers that have flooded into there, garbage cans, gasoline from all the cars that have flooded, and all the boats that are now on the water. I mean, I've been on that water for the last couple of days. It is black and green and absolutely stagnant. It is really disgusting. And these mostly on the water are people like the wildlife and game enforcement agents here in Louisiana, game wardens and others from around the country, basically the units that have the boats. Louisiana didn't have enough boats, the officials here say, and so they've been helped by them, who've come in to try to clear the houses now. But even though the mayor has said that it's a state of martial law, in a sense, it's a state of emergency here, and they have the right to evict people, or rather to mandatorily evacuate them, those precise orders have not yet been handed down. So the law enforcement people, the rescue people, are actually not yet going and dragging people out. And when we ask them if they're going to be able to do that, if it comes to that, they're very, very squeamish about it. They don't know how they're going to actually force people out who don't want to go. And there's still many people who don't want to go. Many people who are very sad about the prospect of leaving their homes, as bad as it is here. However, there are some units of the enforcement agents who've come from around the country. We ran into a group of California highway patrolmen who were in fact taking the mayor's order seriously and were starting to evict people by force. It didn't come to actual physical force because the residents didn't actually physically resist, but they did have to go in, basically, you know, open doors, tell them to come out, say that this was their orders, and these people came out, but very reluctantly, some of them in tears, and put on trucks mounted with armed guards and basically trucked out, and they don't know where to, Wolf.
I assume they're still finding people alive who would very much like to leave but have been stuck in their attics or stuck on rooftops. I assume that's still going on, Christiane, is it?
Well, it is going on, and we saw a group of people who, for instance, were sitting on the street side with bags packed, waiting to be picked up. But the stubborn people, those who've really held up here because they want to, many of them tell us they're carpenters, construction workers, and others who want to help rebuild the city. And actually, some of them are in parts of the city that have not been damaged. They're the ones who are putting up the most resistance, not physical resistance yet, but certainly verbal resistance and wanting to stay. Those who are in houses that have got water, in some instances we saw really right up to the rooftop still, they obviously want to come out. In fact, most of those have already come out.
Christiane Amanpour, thanks very much. I want our viewers to listen now to J.T. Alpa, the helicopter reporter. He's now resumed flying with his team over New Orleans.
Pouring out of where the original levee break occurred. You can see right where that wall is broken off there on the left side of your screen. That's where the original break occurred. And now water being funneled out of that area. Now we've been seeing about half a dozen, maybe up to 10 pumping stations working today. So they're starting to come online slowly, one at a time. Out of the 148 pumping stations within the area, only about 10 of them or so are working. Now, just to give you an idea, if all 148 of these pumps were working, they would be able to pump out 1 foot of water per day. So that gives you an idea of how much work is left here. Billions of gallons of water still within this area. You can see the sludge and the film that's being poured into this canal leading out to the lake. Again, we're going to pull away a Chinook helicopter pulling out of the area with three sandbags connected. He is actually on his way to work an area near the London Canal where there's another levee break. Again, they don't have the access to that break, the ground access, I should say, that a lot of the construction crews in this area had to this particular break. So over here at the London Canal, which we're going to follow the Chinook in and watch his drop as he does some precision flying to lower these sling loads into place and then drop them into the London Canal. The London Street
All right,
Canal
we're going to keep this picture going. I want to bring in our Alex Quaid. She's on the phone. She's been embedded with the U.S. military in New Orleans. Alex, you were involved in some of these chopper missions earlier today. Tell our viewers where you were and what you saw and did.
That's right, Wolf. I'm actually right now on the tarmac at the Naval Air Station, New Orleans, at Belle Chase. And this is where the Army's 1st Cavalry Aviation Brigade is positioned as part of Task Force Katrina. Black Hawk and Chinook helicopter crews, they're basically doing whatever FEMA asks. And we just landed, returning from a number of task missions. The first one was what they call a SOF, or soft insert. The 1st Cav helicopter team basically dropped Special Operations Forces into a neighborhood near the City Park and Lake Pontchartrain area to, as they called it, weed out people who are holed up in their homes, people who want to stay put. Now, these special forces, they include special law enforcement agents, such as SWAT team members and agents working for Homeland Security. And these are folks that have come in from San Diego, from Tampa, from New York, from Washington, D.C. They are carrying M4s, big weapons. They look very imposing, but I asked them, how exactly are you planning to do these to get these people out? And what we watched them, we followed them through the rising waters as they banged on doors, they banged on windows, trying to find people holed up in homes. And when they did find them, they tried to be very persuasive. They didn't force anybody out. They didn't, yank anybody out of their homes. But they tried to be very verbally persuasive. These people that, look, this situation could last for 80 days. You'll be here without food, without water, without sewage, with the waters and no electricity. We followed them house to house as they kept looking for other folks. We also went on a second mission, which is what the 1st Cav is doing with their Chinooks. This is where they are, as you heard with your other helicopter reporter there, they're scooping up the sandbags and dropping them onto the levees. We also flew over to Hammond Airfield, where more 1st Cav soldiers are still driving in on buses from Fort Hood, Texas. Now, those are the foot soldiers that will be going out on presence patrols. They'll be doing these foot patrols around New Orleans and also helping to fight the fires that you're seeing around New Orleans. We actually flew over a big house fire in the city today. The soldiers of the 1st Cav whom we're embedded with, they'll basically do whatever heavy lifting tasks that the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, asks of them. Wolf?
Alex Quaid reporting for us. Sounds like you had a fascinating day, Alex. And these are live pictures that our viewers are seeing. These Chinook helicopters are continuing to bring over the sandbags, to fill in the breaches, the holes in these levees, to stop the flooding and to certainly try to get that water pumped out of this area. JT Alpa is the helicopter reporter. Let's listen in.
Yeah. So again, we'll be watching this for a majority of the week as he maneuvers that aircraft directly over the south wall of the break of this levee. Oh, maybe he's going to the north wall, and he is. He's going to the north break. They're going to drop that right into position. And that looks like a great spot, and crew chief on board is going to give the signal to go, and all three away and sinking to the bottom. You can see the air escaping and the bubbles escaping as those sink into place. And at 46 away here at the London Street Canal.
Okay. These are live pictures that you're seeing over in New Orleans. They're trying to fill this breach in the levee. We're going to continue to show these live pictures to our viewers. So one of the reasons, though, that the mayor of New Orleans wants the holdouts to move out as quickly as possible is the vast poisonous pool in which the city is now swimming. Authorities want to focus in on getting rid of all of that nasty water and the dangers that they represent for so many people. Let's bring in CNN's Jeff Koinange. He's joining us now with more on this part of the story from New Orleans. Jeff?
Wolf, you hit the nail on the head. Nasty water. We've been in that water the last couple of days, up to our chest in some parts, and that water is dirty, it's filthy, it is fetid, it's filled with corpses, and also it's filled with sewage. This is very important here that officials are telling people to leave, because if they stay and that water contaminates people, it'll bring a whole new problem to this city, Wolf.
You've been in other parts of the world, Jeff, and you've seen disgusting, dirty water. Give us a little comparison. The water you've seen in the middle of New Orleans and the water you've seen in other stories that you've covered, specifically in Africa.
I'll tell you what, well, first of all, the water we've seen here, at least they're draining it fast. Other places that I've been, they let that sit there. And what does that do? Someone is contaminated with it. They either touch a door or shake a person's hand, go and open a car door or house door, and then someone else comes and opens that door. cholera begins just like that. When cholera starts, Wolf, it spreads like wildfire. This is what people here are trying to avoid, because this could just open up a whole new can of worms in this city. This water here, at least, Wolf, is being drained slowly. There is so much of it. It's going to take anywhere from 36 to 80 days. It's important that they keep draining it. Even more important, that people leave the city, Wolf.
One of the fears is the mosquito-borne diseases like West Nile virus. Are you seeing a lot of mosquitoes where you are?
Plenty of mosquitoes, Wolf. In fact, we're spraying up all day and all night because they are there, Wolf, and they are looking for victims. They're looking for people to bite, and they're biting us all up and down these streets, Wolf. Yes, they are there because the waters are stagnant. They're stagnant, they're smelly, they're fetid. This is perfect breeding ground for mosquitoes, and then they come over to Canal Street where we are, and they start feeding on us. So yes, we have to keep spraying all the time, Wolf, because those mosquitoes aren't going to stop anytime soon.
Jeff Pornangi reporting for us. Thanks, Jeff, very much. We'll continue to show these live pictures to our viewers. These are helicopters, Black Hawk helicopters, Chinook helicopters, bringing in these huge sandbags, 2,000-pound, 3,000-pound sandbags to try to fill up the holes in those levees to try to get this process back on track. Jack Cafferty is joining us from New York. You're watching all of this, Jack. What's on your mind this hour?
What a job, huh? I mean, it's just the proportions of this effort are just mind-boggling. All right, here's the deal. 9 months into his first term, the terrorist struck. And now 9 months into his second term, it's Katrina. The effects on the president's agenda both times are far-reaching. A lead editorial in the Wall Street Journal, which is a paper usually friendly to the Bush administration, suggests that Katrina poses a threat to Mr. Bush's entire second term. His plans to overhaul Social Security probably dead. Making tax cuts permanent, well, that's tougher to sell with an estimated $200 billion reconstruction cost in New Orleans. The deployment of resources and National Guard troops to Iraq will no doubt heighten the call to get out of there. The president was seen as a take-charge guy in the wake of 9/11. The federal government currently is being viewed as weak and ineffective in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. So here's the question for this hour. How will Hurricane Katrina change the agenda for President Bush's second term? Email us at CaffertyFile, one word, @cnn.com.
All right. Thanks, Jack. I'm sure a lot of our viewers will do precisely that. Coming up, the locals versus the feds. I'll talk to the president of the New Orleans City Council about conditions in his battered city and the finger-pointing that's been going on between Louisiana and Washington. Plus, bacteria, chemicals, and danger in the water. We'll have more on that. The flood may be easing somewhat in New Orleans, but there is all that toxic brew that is still there. And where is it heading? What does it mean for this city in the years to come? And later, hurricane survivors fanning out in Texas and far beyond. We're tracking the evacuees. We'll update you on the search for the missing. Even corporations now anxious to get involved. We'll tell you what they're doing.
Adaptive headlights, designed to anticipate what lies ahead. Unsurpassed 335 horsepower, designed to leave all others behind. The luxury sedan, designed to outperform. Introducing the all-new M from Infiniti.
Objective financial advice. It's right for any nest egg, regardless of size. A.G. Edwards. For 118 years, fully invested in our clients.
Mommy? Honey? At approximately 3:23 a.m., I'll be waking up with the following symptoms: coughing, sneezing, aching, and temperature of 102.3. I recommend you go to bed early. Good night.
If only we knew what life had in store for us. Fortunately, Walgreens has the most 24-hour pharmacies in America, and your prescription is available at all of them.
You need to get 3,000 sales packets to the trade show, print and mail the press kits, and archive 10 years of records. From printing to scanning and archiving to online ordering, turn to PIP to turn down the stress. PIP, easing the pain of business.
CNN Primetime, tonight at 8
Paula's On Now takes you beyond the headlines. Paula's On Now, CNN Primetime, tonight, 8 Eastern.
The drum of NASCAR is on TNT.
Countdown to the chase, only on TNT. Loud, Pocono, Michigan, Bristol, Richmond. When it counts, it's on TNT. TNT.
The race to the chase concludes Saturday night with the Chevy Rock and Roll 400 from Richmond on TNT.
Brought to you by KFC. Race into KFC to feed your hungry crew. KFC, Chicken Capital USA.
I'm not what you would call a do-it-yourselfer. Like that time with my new HD TV. Thankfully, to get high-def programming from Comcast, I didn't have to install anything myself. One call and they did the rest. Now I get all these great HD channels, HD TV on demand, even an HD DVR, all without buying any expensive equipment. They really saved me from myself.
That's HD made easy. Comcast.
Get an exclusive rebate from Comcast when you buy a Panasonic HD TV from Comcast.Panasonic.com.
John Walsh on tracking the missing after Hurricane Katrina. Larry King, CNN Tonight.
Welcome back. While many are criticizing the federal government response for the lack thereof, as some of the critics are suggesting to the storm, some state and local officials are also coming under fire for their roles. Joining us now from Baton Rouge is Oliver Thomas. He's the president of the New Orleans City Council. Oliver, thanks so much for joining us. First of all, what are you hearing from back home in New Orleans? How's the recovery situation, the search and rescue operation coming along today?
Well, I mean, I just got back today. I talked to the police chief and the fire chief and a lot of other essential personnel. It's moving along today a lot better than it was. 2 days ago, I spent part of the evening with the Tennessee and Kentucky Wildlife and Fisheries Search and Rescue Squad. We were able to get quite a few people out. The major condition right now is that, and the main thing that people around the country and around the area who are in shelters want to know is their property being protected? Are the streets being protected? That's the number one thing that I hear from people who had to evacuate the city.
You know, we're showing our viewers some live pictures of the aerial shots from a helicopter flying over the city. One of the airports, I believe this is New Orleans International Airport. We saw a lot of helicopters which are doing rescue operations, as well as the sandbagging of the breaches in the levee. The mayor issued a proclamation last night, Mayor Ray Nagin, Oliver, in which he said, effective immediately, any public safety officer within the boundaries of the parish of Orleans is hereby instructed and authorized to compel the evacuation of all persons from the city of New Orleans, regardless of whether such persons are on private property or do not desire to leave. How far should law enforcement go in removing individuals who say they want to stay put?
I think they should go so far as to letting people know the urgency. You not only the standing water, but the issues with mosquitoes, bugs, diseases, cholera, E. coli, waste matter. The condition is such that it's a major health hazard in certain areas. But should law enforcement people endanger the lives of themselves and the people they're trying to assist by going too far? I think you have to be careful there. I will tell you about a lady, when I was riding with the guy from Kentucky, there was a lady sitting on the porch on Napoleon who was just waving at us, asking us if we needed anything. She said she had enough water and food, and she didn't want to leave her property because that was the only thing she had. There are a lot of people who are going to feel like that. They don't want to leave the only thing that they have, and they fear that the guard, the police, the state police, that these special forces cannot protect their property. And the number one thing that I've heard is they don't want their homes to be looted and burned.
Well, how do you balance this? On the one hand, you want these people to leave because of the disease that you mentioned. The disease is prevalent and could get a lot worse.
We have a chopper that just passed over. Could you repeat that?
All right. Well, I was going to say, how do you balance the need to remove these people for their own health, for their own well-being, while at the same time, without using force, how do you let them stay?
Well, I think it's a fine line. I don't think you jeopardize that person's life. You know, you're going to have some people who are good law-abiding citizens who are not going to want to leave. Should the enforcement agencies get into a gunfight with them? Should they drag them out of their houses through the water? Should they break into their properties? I don't think anyone should suggest that. I mean, in a democracy, people have rights. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who have the right to stay with their life's possessions and the only thing that they own. Should they leave? Yes. Should we say that the evacuation is mandatory? Yes. Should we jeopardize them or the enforcement agencies by getting into a very heated situation with them to get them to leave? I say no.
Oliver Thomas, the president of the City Council, good luck to you. I hope we'll touch base in the coming days, and I hope things start to get a little bit better where you are.
Things have started to get a little better. If they hurry and get the water out, there are major portions of the city that can be saved if they hurry, especially uptown. The housing stock is strong, and it's holding up real well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your joining us. These pictures that we're seeing now are live pictures, the pictures behind me, the pictures that you've been seeing. They're coming throughout this hour. We're going to continue to show our viewers these live pictures, various scenes, these scenes clearly outside of New Orleans. There you see the runway at New Orleans International Airport. We're going to continue to show you these live pictures throughout this hour here in the Situation Room. The federal government is changing some of the rules because of the damage caused by Katrina. Let's bring in our Ali Velchi in New York for a little explanation of what rule changes are going on.
Wolf, we're trying to sort of follow what's going on. The House Energy Panel has been having some discussions. Now, a couple things are happening. One is they are looking very seriously at moving quickly on a U.S. refinery bill. You know, part of the problem with these refineries is before Katrina, we were strapped, weren't getting enough gas. So we're hearing that they're looking at a new refinery bill. They are saying, however, that there's no need to restrain gasoline profiteering and no need to look at stricter fuel economy standards for new vehicles. That last one makes me very curious because, you know, in the end, we do actually have to look at this stuff regardless of what the government is saying. The Department of Energy is saying, by the way, that 4 refineries have been damaged, and those refineries will be offline for months, but most of the pipelines bringing gas across the country are back online. We're seeing the price of oil and gas pulling back a little bit, so we're starting to get some good news. But if we start to at least have a discussion about fuel economy and refineries, it might give everybody a bit of a break.
Well, that's obviously a critical issue given the price for fuel right now.
Wolf, I want to just tell you there's another piece of news that we should just bring you up to speed on. 3 of the 4 largest airlines in the country have some news in them. United, which is the #2 airline in bankruptcy, has filed to get out of bankruptcy by February 1st. The #3 carrier, Delta, announcing 1,000 more job layoffs. And #4 carrier, Northwest, which we know has been on strike, has had their mechanics on strike since August 20th, going back to the table to talk to the mechanics on Thursday. So that's sort of bringing you up to speed on what's going on in the world of business, Wolf.
Stick around for a second, Ali. JT Alba, the helicopter reporters, flying over one of these oil refinery areas right now. Let's listen in. JT sounds like he's taking a little break from narrating what he's seeing, but certainly some signs that there's a huge infrastructure there, Ali, that is of so much value to the American consumer.
No, some of it's coming back, but there has been damage, and that is going to slow things down for us for a little while. You know, nobody's getting a big break on their gas prices. Heating oil prices will be higher for the winter as well. And, you know, for the rest of us who don't have to suffer the damage of the hurricane, it's bad enough. For those people who are going to hopefully look forward to being back in their homes in the course of a few months, they've got that to contend with, too.
Thanks, Ali, very much. Earlier, some of our viewers may have spotted some traffic. Looked like a little traffic jam going on in New Orleans. People trying to get out. I suppose that's an encouraging sign that people are able to drive where they were driving. You probably saw that, those live pictures coming in just a few moments ago. In New Orleans, roadways still look like they're underwater, at least many of the streets in the city of New Orleans. Perhaps 60% of the area still underwater. Coming up, not only are they trying to pump out the water, we'll tell you how they're also trying to fix the roads. Stay with us.
Don't let your nest egg get away from you. Get objective financial advice instead. A.G. Edwards, for 118 years, fully invested in our clients.
Introducing the 2006 Impala. Available with the powerful 303 horsepower small block V8. It's a bold new animal. Chevy Impala, an American revolution.
It's time for the lending industry to change. That's why eLoan has consultants who don't make money based on the rate of the loan and has no lender fees. Those are some of the revolutionary ways we're changing the lending industry. eLoan. Radically simple.
How many days is 3 weeks?
21.
Won't you miss your room?
A little bit.
Won't you miss Rocky?
You know what I'm gonna miss the most?
What?
This face.
Mr. Buckley, welcome to Residence Inn.
Residence Inn. All suites with all the comforts.
With the new Sprint, now I can talk on the largest network with no roaming charges.
Now I can talk as much as I want with no huge overages.
Now I can get all my incoming calls free.
So everyone's in my free calling network.
Lots of different plans.
For lots of different people.
Because if we were all the same as everyone else,
it would be creepy.
Together, Sprint and Nextel give you more choice in plans than any other wireless company, starting at just $34.99 a month. Call 800-SPRINT-1 now.
Tonight, CNN Primetime takes you beyond the headlines. Go to the places, meet the people, question the newsmakers, get the real story. News, not just talk. CNN Primetime, it's essential. Tonight starts 7 Eastern.
Now at CNN.com, finding loved ones in the aftermath of Katrina. See rescues and reunions on free video, plus how you can help, donate, or volunteer. Complete coverage on Katrina evacuees, now at CNN.com.
In New Orleans, the search for survivors now is a door-to-door operation, often very slow and extremely frustrating. Our national correspondent, Gary Tuckman, went house to house with members of the New Mexico National Guard, and he's joining us now live from New Orleans with his story. Gary?
Well, Wolf, we were in Plaquemines Parish, which is about 15 miles behind me along the Mississippi River. That's where the hurricane actually struck first, in the town of Buras, which is in that parish. But people were very afraid when the hurricane hit that the entire parish would be destroyed, and they were close to right. About 2/3 of it right now is underwater. So today we went there, and we did see the New Mexico National Guard searching house by house for people who may have died. 3 bodies have been found, but scores of people who did not evacuate are still missing. They literally pounded on doors, broke them down with axes, and looked inside. They didn't find anyone while we were with them, but so much of the parish is underwater, they don't know what they'll find in the days to come. Very moving scene we saw today, Wolf. A VFW hall underwater, but at the VFW hall, in front of it on the flagpole, Old Glory and a Vietnam POW flag flying from the flagpole. So the New Mexico National Guard took the flags down and presented them in a ceremony that they organized to the son of the treasurer of that VFW post. That particular man lost his home, was very moved by getting the flags that flew in front of the VFW hall. Wolf?
So were there signs of survivors in that area where you spent the day?
Where we spent the day, and we went actually in a motorboat down the Mississippi River, seeing where all these homes and businesses were underwater, no sign of survivors whatsoever. The people who run the parish do believe that almost all of the people evacuated who are missing, but they are reasonably sure there are some who never made it out, and they're afraid they will find eventually their bodies.
How does it look to you? You've been there now for several days, Gary. Does it look like the situation is getting better, or as some suggest, maybe even more dangerous, with the potential for disease, secondary cause for death, potentially erupting?
I think, Wolf, like anything else, we, the police, the military, are getting more used to the situation. But it's still very dangerous. You drive along Interstate 10 in New Orleans, and you look over. The interstate's dry because it's an overpass, but you look down, and everything is 4, 5, 6, 7 feet of water. Houses, businesses. And we've heard in your program right now so much about the dangers of the water. So the situation is still very dangerous and perilous, but the fact is, we're getting used to it.
Gary Tuckman doing an excellent job for us as always. Gary, thank you very much. Let's listen in to J.T. Alpa, the helicopter reporter, flying over downtown New Orleans. Look at this, the Superdome. Look at this roof of the Superdome clearly severely damaged by this hurricane. We don't know what's going on inside, if anything, right now. Some suggesting this whole structure should be torn down, but let's listen into JT.
I'm going to come back to the Calvin story. There is a gentleman named Calvin and his wife named Kim. Calvin has been holed up in his store. They own a convenience store here just north of town. And Kim and Calvert were communicating via two-way texting for the past week until that texting and communication stopped a few days back. Well, Kim asked for a lot of help from a lot of different people, and they were so busy they just couldn't get to Calvin and help her out. So she one day walked up to us and asked for our help. We were flying over the area, and she came up, and Ron Bagassi said, "I've got a woman by the name of Kim in the truck who needs our help desperately." And when Kim directed us to where the store was. She gave us the address. We popped it into our GPS and we flew to the area. And we explained to the Coast Guard the situation, that Calvin was locked in the store because he was afraid of looters, that he was armed, and that he didn't want to come out because he was afraid to be looted. Well, there were no looters in the area. We checked the area, and we saw no sign of life or movement around there. So we called the United States Coast Guard in, who dropped a rescue swimmer down on a hoist to come try to find him and pull him out. And they came down and they found him on a porch across the street from, in fact, I see the store right there, across the street, and the rescue swimmer walked up to him and said, "Calvin, let's go." And we've got a helicopter overhead that's talking to Kim, your wife, in the truck, and she says she's got the kids, she wants you to come out of there. And Calvin said, "No, I want to stay behind and protect the store." And he pleaded with her, and Kim was passing messages to us, and we were passing those messages on to the Coast Guard, and Calvin just didn't come out. Well, earlier today, we checked on Calvin, and he's still at this house. We're going to push in and show you the store. You'll see that really red roof tiled store, and you're going to say that probably looks familiar because we've been here quite a few times.
All right, we're going to break away from JT Alba. He's talking about one individual who's refusing to leave, but there are a lot of people so far who are refusing to leave. Let's check the situation online. The blogger Michael Barnett may be among the best known of the New Orleans holdouts. He's been staying in his downtown office building since the hurricane struck, providing detailed information, some incredible pictures as well. He's joining our internet reporter, Abby Tatton, via web phone. Abby, pick up the story.
Yeah, Michael Barnett has been camped out in his 10th floor office building and recording everything that's been happening in the last 10 days at mgno.com, which for readers around the world has become the Survival of New Orleans blog. Michael joins us now by phone. Hi, Michael.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No problem at all. We've been following this for 10 days now. Tell us, why did you decide to stay when the hurricane was approaching last week?
Well, first of all, the company that I stayed with, directnick.com, runs about 2% of the internet off of its servers. So this company absolutely has to stay afloat, even if in a disaster like this. If it doesn't, you're looking at possibly 2% of the internet going down, and that's an awful lot of commerce.
And how exactly are you staying afloat? What supplies do you have? How are you keeping online? What are the conditions down there?
Well, we're doing pretty well, actually. We had a stockpile of food and water and enough fuel to run our diesel generator for a while, and we've gotten some resupplies as we needed it for the fuel aspect.
And the mayor of New Orleans has now ordered a forceful evacuation of all the people still in the city. How are you responding to this? Do you plan to leave?
No, we don't plan to leave. Right now, I think we're more of an asset than a liability to this city, and we've been trying to help the city out, reestablishing their communication, especially for their police force and for the mayor's office.
What is the scene on the ground? Last week, on Thursday, I believe, you said it was the law of the jungle down here. I'm going through some of your pictures right now, Michael, of the looters, of fires just a couple of blocks from you. What is it like? Is it still Lord of the Flies out there?
No, the civil unrest has pretty much been completely stamped out. The military rolled in a few days ago. We've got the 82nd Airborne out here now. All of that stuff ended, I'd say, a couple of days ago. It's still a disaster out there. It's a huge mess, and it stinks, and it's going to take a long time to rebuild it.
Michael Barnett Wolf has been blogging at mgno.com, and he says he's not going anywhere. Wolf.
All right, Abby, thank you very much, and thanks to Michael as well. There's a developing story we're following. Our Soledad O'Brien is joining us on the phone right now from St. Bernard Parish. What are you picking up, Soledad?
Hey, Wolf. Good afternoon to you. Yeah, this is what they describe as the worst of the very worst. So right now we're at what's become essentially a point for getting supplies. We'll update you on some details about a nursing home, St. Rita's nursing home. They are confirming for us now that somewhere between 25 and 30 people have been found inside that nursing home. Wolf, they are dead. The nursing home's still under a lot of water. It's unclear at this time if those are ambulatory patients who just wouldn't leave, if those are patients who are bedridden and just couldn't get out. It's also unclear if the staff are among the dead or if the staff took off and abandoned the elderly patients. Obviously, loss is not known. More information also from this area. Turns out the jail, which they evacuated relatively early on, the prisoners got out. Jail actually didn't get a whole lot of water in it, which was sort of surprising to some of the deputies that we've been talking to. Right now, they're receiving lots of supplies, but also, as you can see with this updated death toll here, of at least 25 to 30 elderly people dead. Certainly, that's kind of more of the focus today. That grim task of recovering bodies and counting bodies is what they're really doing here. This is a parish. I got to tell you, well, this is a parish where the numbers of dead are going to be absolutely staggering. This is the devastation, and we've seen a lot of bad. The devastation here is horrible, horrific.
Who are you traveling with, Soledad?
Who am I traveling with? Right now we're with the sheriff of Jefferson Parish. His parish actually wasn't hit so badly, and so what he's been doing early on, he was helping out the city cops, giving them supplies because they were utterly decimated by the storm, hit them pretty much straight on. His parish was spared, and now he's come here, and he has been doing what he can to help them out with supplies because, frankly, all of their squad cars underwater. They lost essentially everything. He's been the sheriff. Sheriff Lee has been the sheriff for 26 years. He's got a lot of friends in high places. He's been on the phone with Willie Nelson, thanking him for water. He's been on the phone with Steven Seagal, telling him, hey, big thanks, but we're not going to need you to come in. Lots of infectious diseases in this area. So he's really been using his connections as well to try to bring in as much aid as they need, and they need a lot.
Soledad O'Brien is reporting from St. Bernard Parish, very, very badly hit. Yes,
Can I
Soledad.
add one quick thing for you?
Sure.
Michael Chertoff just drove by us, the Secretary of Homeland Security. He is meeting with the Sheriff of St. Bernard Parish. We're going to try to grab him for a quick interview when they come out of that meeting.
All right, good. We'll look forward to that, Soledad. Be careful over there. Soledad O'Brien joining us from New Orleans on the phone. Much more coverage coming up. Surely families are looking for their displaced loved ones, but there's another component to this missing person story. Companies are looking for their employees. We'll tell you how some companies just want to know where their workers are and whether they're safe and sound. We'll tell you what's happening on that front. Stay with us.
Thomas Jefferson. His legacy includes the Louisiana Purchase and the Lewis and Clark Expedition. The Westward Journey Nickel series from the United States Mint commemorates the bicentennials of these events with a new likeness of Thomas Jefferson on the 2005 nickel, plus 2 new historic tail designs. The nickels are included in beautifully crafted silver-proof sets, a great gift idea for any occasion. To order, call 1-800-USA-MINT or visit www.usmint.gov.
Would you like to turn your equity into cash you can use for any purpose? Just log on to ditech.com for your free online e-appraisal. Right now we're offering a low fixed-rate home equity loan with a flat fee of just $49. Call 1-800-DITECH-3.
Most car companies use crash test dummies to study the effects of accidents on drivers and passengers. It makes sense to be concerned about the people inside your cars. But what about the people outside? What kind of company is concerned about them?
Let's go, girls!
Go places this weekend at 50% off. Rent Friday to Monday, 50% off. Pick Enterprise. We'll pick you up.
Don't let your nest egg get away from you. Get objective financial advice instead. A.G. Edwards, for 118 years, fully invested in our clients.
The HP Blade System server powered by Intel Xeon processors. Consolidation made easy.
Welcome back to the Situation Room. Throughout this hour, we've been watching these live pictures coming from a helicopter. Reporter JT Alpa has been telling us what they're seeing. I want our viewers to check in. These are live pictures. Let's listen in briefly to what JT is reporting.
So again, these barges need to be removed. We're going to show you the pumping station as we move here to the northeast. And
as we watch these live pictures, Tom Foreman is here, and he's watching this. He spent many years in New Orleans as a younger reporter. You know these areas. Show our viewers where this is and what's going on.
Sure. This is the Industrial Canal, an important part of the road. If you look at it here on this picture, you can see the canal. And as I pull out, you'll see those bridges. Canal cuts from the lake up here, Lake Pontchartrain. You follow it down, gets you into the river down below. So you see that it's to the east of downtown New Orleans, one of the places where we had flooding in the area. And the flooding continues to improve. I want to show you a couple of images that we found very interesting to look at in this whole thing. This is a picture of the levee in New Orleans along the Industrial Canal after it had failed. And you'll see a difference in the flow rate of water here. This is fairly early on. We're going to zoom into this, and once we get in close, I'll show you that we have a difference in the flow rate when you see how much water is in there. Look at this. That's the levee. You see how much water is flowing right here, that little white area right there? It's an important thing because that tells you that there's a lot of water flowing. And interestingly enough, in this case, it was flowing out of the neighborhood back in. But if I change to this other view of the levee, you'll see that the same picture, much, much less water flowing. An important thing. Let's go back over to the other levee, which we were looking at the other day. The one on the 17th Street Canal, that's the one that flooded so much of New Orleans East that so many people were worried about. And when we get back over there, I want to show you a series of pictures that are very important, very encouraging to people in New Orleans. This is the 17th Street Canal. I'll have to pull out on it just a little bit, and it'll give you a better sense of where that is. This is the canal that, if we can go to these pictures right away, I'll show you what we're dealing with here. This is the canal that had all the flooding that went into New Orleans East. And there are three pictures from this which are very telling for us at this moment. They're pictures that give you a sense of how much they have repaired this. Can we get to those pictures right now? They show you the canal on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. If we can pull those images up, and apparently we can't at the moment. But nonetheless,
but they were very dramatic.
Tremendous. There we go. Here they are. Look at this. This is the canal on Sunday, with just a few bags dropped into it. There it is on Monday.
The one on the furthest to the left.
Right, the one on the left right here. This one is Monday with just some of it filled in, a little bit of those giant bags, those 2,000, 3,000 pound bags of sand dropped in. There it is on Monday, Sunday, Monday, and now look at it now. A full road built across it. That's rebuilt to kind of what a levee is really supposed to be. Very important. That's what's allowing all the water to be pumped out now, and ultimately is going to clear up areas like where we saw that barge a short while ago. There's one other thing that we want to talk about today that I think is pretty important at this point. I want to look at the roads in and out, because all these things we're dealing with, everywhere there, is going to rely on what they can do about these roads. We're flying out here to a very important part of what we're dealing with here. It has to do with I-10. We talked to the Transportation Department today. I-10 bridges across some of these roads are in very bad shape. This one is from beforehand, so you don't know what the details of it are, but nonetheless, it's an area that we have to be concerned about. And here's the big bridge on I-10. That's the road that falls along the coastline, cuts into New Orleans from Slidell, which is important. And as we zoom in here, I want you to look at the damage on I-10. This is it before the storm. This is I-10 before the storm. After the storm, you see all those breaks in the road. We can go way in on some of these and give you at least an idea of what we're talking about. All those breaks. There are 2 spans of this. And when I talked to the Department of Transportation today, what they're trying to do is a trick that they learned after Hurricane Ivan over in Pensacola. They're going to pick whichever span is the most stable. They will go to the opposite span and steal portions of the bridge that are in good shape and plug them into these holes. If they successfully do this, that will allow them to then make a working span all the way across the lake in that area, and that's very, very important.
Stand by, Tom, for a moment. Rusty Dornan is watching a very important part of this story for us. She's joining us live. Rusty, you're taking a look at the water that's being pumped out of the city into Lake Pontchartrain, but that's very disgusting, dirty, toxic, heavy water. Tell our viewers what you're picking up.
Well, that's the whole thing, Wolf, is that, of course, you have to get it out of the city. It's presenting its own set of very dangerous health problems that we've talked about, toxins and, of course, bacterial toxins and that sort of thing. But pumping it into Lake Pontchartrain creates another set of problems. We've spoken with some biologists from Louisiana State University who have said that what's happening with all of the dead animals, dead leaves, all the bacteria in the water, it's consuming all of the oxygen. And when you put all of that water back into Lake Pontchartrain, you are creating the potential for a fish kill there. Now, this is a lake that had been historically polluted for many years. In fact, they only let people
Rusty, hold that
swim
thought for
out
1
of
second. Rusty, hold that thought for 1 second. Our helicopter is flying over an area where it looks like a fire has erupted. Let's listen into JT Alpa.
We're coming up on a street named Clearview. So it's actually just west of a street named Clearview, just north of Highway 61. And the fire, there's quite a bit of apparatus here. We're seeing at least 2 or 3, 4 engines, a couple ladder trucks, and they're starting to fight this fire, which is a good thing. Clear on left. Single family dwelling. Looks to be pretty well involved on the internal. We're going to see these firefighters start to battle this fire. We don't see any water being put on it yet. That doesn't mean that there's an internal attack going on, but we're going to come around the south side, try to get our aircraft into the wind and give you a really good look here at this fire. We do have some visible flame here on the south side of the roof. If you just pan left from there, Dave. We've got some water coming in, and there's your fire. You can see that firefighters working this blaze, and this house is surrounded. It's very interesting because this is a rear house that's surrounded by, we pull out just a little bit, Dave. I'm going to show you this, what appears to be an industrial warehouse. So it's kind of blocked in by several other houses. That's good there. And very hard to get to. So they're using the ladder pipes to extend over the top of these buildings. So they're fighting it from above because they're trying to make access in. And you can see that black smoke there starting to turn into gray smoke, which is a good sign. We saw some visible flame here, but that line that's being put in right there on the bottom of your screen, that line right there doing some real good. We've got a fire hawk coming in. He's going to make a drop on this. As you see his Bambi bucket come into frame. He's going to come back around here. Okay, this Firehawk helicopter obviously been called in to do a dump because the difficult area that this is in. UH-60 Firehawk. Firehawk coming in for his final approach. He's done his reconnaissance orbit. And you can see that he's going to slow this up here. Now he's actually probably going to do one more reconnaissance orbit before he drops. taking a look on the fire and maybe trying to make a determination whether he's going to make a drop or not. It remains to be seen. I think he's going to actually pull off. He sees that the ground firefighters possibly have a good handle on this. Not really sure if he's going to make a drop. He's coming around to the right, but if they don't have to dump all that water and possibly damage some of the nearby homes, they won't do that. That's one of the reasons that they don't use these aircraft for your normal everyday firefighting activity. But he's coming around east of us, and it looks like he may be lining up to put one in there. But again, it's a very confined fire surrounded by 3 or 4 homes. And we're trying to give you a shot of him as he comes in from the east to the west. A blue and red. Now, I'm not sure if he's going to, there he is right there. We'll give you a line. Just see if he's got water in that bucket. I'm pretty sure it is by the way it's sinking. Yeah, it's a full bucket. You can see the water just trailing out of there as the Cineplex goes in and grabs that tight image. Making the decision, maybe talking to the firefighters on some of the radios to let them know that he's coming in so they can grab cover. Because let me tell you, when you get dropped on by one of these, it hurts. And I have been dropped on by one of these, and it's a lot of water that comes down, and it can knock you off your feet. The last thing he wants to do is injure any of these firefighters working this house fire just about 8 to 10 miles west of the downtown area. Getting you a good look at this Firehawk crew, a tight shot in, and they've got eyes on us. It may look like we're close, but we're not because of that lens of our Cineplex in tight on those firefighters. He's going to come around on one more orbit. It looks like he may be lining up. He's going to come around the backside of us or right under us, and it looks like he's setting up for a drop. We're going to give you that unique straight look down angle that we can give you here with the Cineplex camera. And it is look like he's made his announcements. He's going to be coming in and going to slow it up here in a second. And he's probably going to dump on that fire. Well, actually, we're going to let him come around one more time. He's trying to give them one more. And you can see that high school in the background as we pan through. I'm not sure what high school that is. I'm trying to get a better.
All right, as we watch this, Tom Foreman, it looks like this helicopter is going to dump that bucket of water. It's a huge bucket, I must say. Where is this location that this is going on?
Yeah, he mentioned it was some way to the west of downtown. I'm pretty sure it's out in this area out here. You're getting pretty close to being outside of the Orleans Parish area when you get over here. This is getting into Jefferson Parish and into Metairie. So this is a fire actually where we haven't seen one so far. Generally, we've seen some uptown. We've seen some on the riverfront. We've seen some in New Orleans East a little bit. But again, it's back over in this area a little bit.
All right, we'll continue to watch this. But let's bring in Jack Cafferty, who's been checking your email. Jack, what are you picking up?
That's pretty neat stuff, isn't it, watching that chopper go
it's
around.
Amazing. It's amazing.
Very compelling pictures. And a lot of credit to the guys who are flying those birds down there. The question this hour is this. How will Hurricane Katrina change the agenda for President Bush's second term? Tom in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina writes, hopefully this disaster will make us reassess our role in Iraq and get us out of there. Has it dawned on anyone that the same idiots who can't get a bottle of water into a major American city in less than 3 days are trying to win a war? He signs it, a disgusted and embarrassed Republican. Casey in San Angelo, Texas. It might make it a harder sell, but I don't think the president's going to just give up either. He made promises in his re-election campaign, and he's not a quitter. And in Tucson, Arizona, Hurricane Katrina will not change President Bush's second-term agenda. That would mean responding to actual facts and circumstances, not ideologies and slogans. He will stay the course and stay surrounded only by the voices who will not question anything he says or does. Ray in Bradley, Illinois, as with any other business, the agenda will expand and items will be reprioritized. Whether President Bush will be able to address every item on the expanded agenda remains to be seen, but it's a good question. And Sherry in Camarillo, California, how will it change his agenda? Baby, his agenda is going to be keeping himself in office from this point on. Big water way trumps white water. And she writes, P.S. I changed the hours I work so I could watch you when you left the morning show. That was a nice thing she said, which is why I read her letter.
Jack, one final thought. How did you feel when you saw those New York firefighters working in New Orleans today?
Well, they got the best firefighters in the world on the job down there now. There just isn't any better group of individuals than the New York City Fire Department, New York City Police Department. And the experience they had with 9/11 puts them head and shoulders above probably any other firefighting organization in the world.
We'll see you tomorrow, Jack. Thanks very much. We're here in the Situation Room every weekday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm Wolf Blitzer in Washington. Lou Dobbs tonight starts right after a quick break.
mine. Let me spit it to you one more time now.
It's a different world when you've got a Hemi. Charger unleashed.
There's an even better way to care for your nest egg. Objective financial advice. A.G. Edwards. For 118 years, fully invested in our clients.
You make a living by what you get, and a life by what you give. That's why you'll find us helping our neighbors fix up their homes, or study after school for a physics test, or get ready for Mrs. Quinlan's first grade class. Because the men and women of Lockheed Martin believe that giving back is the very best way forward.
Kerr-McGee launched the world's first cell spar. But what you can see is only the tip of the technology. Because Red Hawk pierces a mile of deep water, plus 2 miles more into the seafloor, to recover America's energy for Americans. Energy that without Kerr-McGee's deep water solutions might forever belong to the deep. Nobody rules the deep water like the explorers of Kerr-McGee.
Tonight, CNN Primetime takes you beyond the headlines. Go to the places, meet the people, question the newsmakers, get the real story. News, not just talk. CNN Primetime, it's essential. Tonight starts 7 Eastern.
No one knows.
Good evening, everybody. Tonight, New Orleans police are preparing to forcibly remove people who refuse to leave their devastated city. The U.S. military, however, declares it wants no part of these forced evacuations of New Orleans residents. All of those National Guard troops work for the Chief of the National Guard, Lieutenant General Stephen Blum. He's our guest here tonight. And engineers face a huge task to pump out the floodwaters and to repair levees in New Orleans. 60% of the city remains underwater. The man in charge of the massive and complex task of rebuilding those levees and reconstructing the infrastructure of New Orleans is Lieutenant General Carl Strock. He is the commander of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. He'll join me here tonight. And while government agencies at the state, federal, and local levels are facing blistering criticism over their slow response to this disaster, private citizens all over this country say can do. They're organizing their own relief efforts for the residents of New Orleans. We'll have that special report. Tonight, as many as 15,000 people remain in New Orleans. Many of them are stranded, but many remain there by choice, and some say they will resist any effort to remove them. But that's exactly what's likely to happen. The mayor of New Orleans is threatening to use force to remove anyone who refuses to leave. And the mayor says it's simply unsafe to stay in that city because of the polluted floodwaters. Health officials say at least 3 people have already died because of contaminated water. Those 3 deaths part of an escalating overall death toll that could eventually be as high as 10,000. Another major concern in New Orleans tonight, the rising number of fires. There have been nearly 60 fires since the hurricane hit last week. New Orleans firefighters are being reinforced now by thousands of additional rescue workers and troops. The number of troops now in the disaster zone is 63,000. We begin our coverage tonight with Drew Griffin in New Orleans. Drew?
Lou, this day began just like it ended last night with the mayor announcing he wants all these people that you say, possibly 15,000, to get out. They are creating a problem. They don't know how all these fires are starting, but some of them may be starting by people trying to live in these houses with no power. They're lighting candles, they're cooking, etc. So they're going house to house, trying to right now gently coerce these people to leave. But eventually, the mayor says they're going to have to force them to leave. It's gotten a little bit political with the governor not sure if she wants her National Guardsmen to actually force people out. Those things have to be worked out, but things are getting to the breaking point. They need to get these stragglers, as they call them, out of New Orleans so they can clean it up, turn the electricity grid back on, make sure there's no fire danger, and then allow people back in. While that was going on, Lou, we saw a bit of a transition today. Quite frankly, something I'm used to seeing 1 or 2 days after a hurricane, and that is people, troops, soldiers coming in here not to walk around the streets with their guns, but to actually start cleaning up. We ran into a Texas National Guard unit, a purification unit. They're going to tackle the water supply in New Orleans. Everywhere on the streets, we saw various contractors trying to clean up debris, and even downtown, some of the business owners are now finally, believe it or not, 9 days later, starting to board up windows that were broken by looters so many days ago. So there are signs of life, there are signs of progress, but over this whole thing, Lou, over this whole entire operation is the fear of what is still down in the lower 9th District, and that we just don't know yet.
Those fears, of course, contaminated flood waters, the number of people now rising to 15,000 that the mayor's office suspects remain within the city. Have we seen any shift in the effort toward both asking those people to move and to move ahead on the part of at least the local police to forcibly remove those people?
Well, what we have seen personally happen, Lou, is they're stopping the handing the water to them. They're stopping the enabling of them. You know, what we've seen for many days is as troops go by and they have a spare bottle of water, they'll give the stragglers some water. They'll give them some rations. That has stopped. And we have talked to a few people who have been living here in the dry side of New Orleans who think they're ready to go. Now they realize they are totally out of food. They must leave, and they don't have the blessing of anybody in this city to stay, so they're thinking about leaving. But there are some diehards, and quite frankly, there's some stubborn and perhaps a little troubled people who will have to be forced to leave. How to delicately handle that, these people that have been through so much, is going to be an interesting situation, both politically and physically, for the people who have to go in there and do it.
A tough situation that in some days seems to get even tougher. Drew Griffin, thank you very much. Reporting from New Orleans. New Orleans city officials say the threat of their flooded, ruined city being consumed now by fires is worsening by the hour. In New Orleans today, new fires did break out. Fire crews from all around the United States, including this one from New York City, are helping battle these serious fires in punishing 90-degree heat. But low water pressure makes firefighting difficult, and the fires all but impossible to contain. Officials say residents still in their homes using candles are in many cases accidentally starting some of these fires. Fires are also being sparked by ruptured gas lines. The U.S. Military Command Center for the massive search and rescue operation in New Orleans is the Navy assault ship Iwo Jima. The Iwo Jima is docked in New Orleans. The Army commander, Lieutenant General Russell Honorary, has set up his headquarters on that ship. Jeff Koenengi has our report.
Early morning on the flight deck of the USS Iwo Jima. Nearly as long as 3 football fields, the Iwo Jima has docked at New Orleans on a mission far different from what it's used to. Squadron Commander Gerard Hill was born and raised in New Orleans. He still finds it difficult to come to terms with what's happened to his city.
I'm at a loss for words. Just looking out over the city, I'm constantly at a loss for words. All I could do is say, you know, my God, what happened to all of these people? Where are all of the houses that used to be here? It's just devastating. It's unbelievable.
The Iwo Jima has a dual mission. It's a warship, but below deck, it's a hospital. Richard Callis is the captain. The ship hasn't been in port 48 hours, and already the doctors are at work here inspecting Darrell Terrence's swollen feet. He says he's diabetic and thought he was going to die when Hurricane Katrina turned his city upside down.
I feel a little better, you know. I lost everything I had. But, you know, that's life.
Yeah, don't discard this. Doctors here say they are more than ready to play an important role in helping the people of New Orleans recover.
We have a unit here of 80 people, so we have about 10 physicians, probably a surgical team of about six physicians, and 10 primary care doctors.
Back on the flight deck, Captain Callis has no illusions what he's up against.
This is the most significant, the most horrific disaster to strike the United States, I think, the country's history. We're doing this here for Americans. This is our own. These are our grandmothers and aunts and uncles and fathers and sisters and cousins and close friends. We're doing it for ourselves.
Doing it for themselves and insisting their mission won't be accomplished until everyone who needs help is rescued. Now, Lou, the thing to note here is that right now it's search and rescue. Pretty soon that will turn to search and recovery as more and more bodies are being seen around the country, turning up in swamps, in homes, and all over the city, Lou.
Unfortunately, and those that prospective death toll expected to reach as high as 10,000. Jeff, thank you very much, and thank you for your excellent work. Jeff Koenengi from New Orleans. One of the biggest concerns now for rescue workers is the increasingly toxic floodwaters in New Orleans and surrounding areas. At least 3 people have already died because of contaminated water. The Environmental Protection Agency is warning about high levels of E. coli, coliform bacteria, and lead. Kitty Pilgrim has our report.
It's a foul-smelling, toxic soup.
We're experiencing something we haven't experienced over the past 9 to 10 days, and that is the smell of rotting water. And it is permeating the air. It's very thick today. Just a lot of really bad smells up here from this rotting water.
The CDC today saying in no way should anyone go near the water because of risk of sickness. Some people have died. But the open question is how much of the toxic waste is permanent environmental damage. Oil is literally coating much of the area. An oil spill in Chalmette, Louisiana released 85,000 barrels of oil into a residential area. The EPA daily statement says it is continuing to assess oil spills and chemical releases in New Orleans and the area by helicopter. But that doesn't include the thousands of tiny spills, oil and gas leaking from abandoned cars, trucks, and boats, and bubbling natural gas leaks.
This is a serious disaster of the first order for the environment because all the petroleum chemicals and what are called heavy metals, toxic metals like lead and cadmium and so on that undoubtedly are in this area. These can poison the soils, they can poison the water supplies for a long time.
Building damage produces its own poisons. The EPA issued a public caution when entering damaged buildings. Leaking household chemical containers, when mixed, can be toxic. Asbestos in storm-damaged buildings is also potentially getting into the environment. Mold and mildew caused by floodwater can cause respiratory ailments. Then there is the raw sewage. The EPA says more than 100 wastewater facilities are affected in Louisiana, nearly that number in Mississippi. The EPA took samples of water in New Orleans to be analyzed and said more than 1,200 drinking water facilities have been affected by the hurricane. The initial EPA samplings of water found the bacteria from the sewage 10 times higher than acceptable safety levels. Skin contact with the water is also dangerous, so federal health officials say rescue workers also need to wear protective clothing before they can even walk in this water safely, Lou.
It is extraordinary, the extent of the damage and what appears to be the long-lasting nature of that damage. Thank you very much, Kitty Pilgrim. More on the disaster ahead here. Hundreds of thousands of evacuees and refugees need urgent help to pay for basic necessities. What federal, state, and local governments are doing to help those people next. And Americans all over the country are helping their fellow citizens recover from this Hurricane Katrina. We'll have a special report for you on one group of volunteers. Nearly 50,000 National Guard troops are now in the disaster zone, helping the relief operations. The general responsible for coordinating this massive deployment is my guest here tonight. And the UN Volcker report, long awaited on the corrupt oil for food program, is now out. You won't believe that Mr. Volcker found corruption, mismanagement, and deception. We'll tell you who, despite all of that, says that the report proves he is absolutely blameless. Stay with us.
Lou Dobbs Tonight is brought to you by the Royal Bank of Scotland Group. Make it happen.
Do you, Morgan Ambrose Robert, take this woman to be your lawful wedded wife?
Of course, that very much depends on what you mean by the question, do you? Forward-looking statements involve risk and uncertainties. We're opening up a can of worms here. No single answer readily presents itself. I mean, have we really explored every avenue? Have the parties made certain representations, warranties, and agreements in connection with the merger? Do the parties agree to be subject to the satisfaction of the regulatory approvals as required to consummate the transaction? Who amongst us will ever know?
I do.
I pronounce you man and wife. You may kiss the bride.
Less talk. Make it happen. The Royal Bank of Scotland Group.
The Oracle Grid, a group of low-cost servers connected by Oracle software. Now, if a server fails, the grid just keeps running. The Oracle Grid runs faster, costs less, and never breaks.
Lots of Wi-Fi users work in coffee shops, which aren't always the best places to work. Wouldn't it be great to work wherever you wanted instead of only in hotspots? Now you can with Verizon Wireless Broadband Access. Wi-Fi only works in limited locations, while Broadband Access is the nation's largest, fastest, wide-area wireless broadband network and is expanding coast to coast. Now get unlimited access at a great price, so you won't get stuck in a not-so-hot spot. Verizon Wireless, we never stop working for you.
Class of 95. Here I come.
Weekends look even better. At 50% off. Rent Friday to Monday, 50% off. Pick Enterprise. We'll pick you up.
Now at CNN.com, finding loved ones in the aftermath of Katrina. See rescues and reunions on free video, plus how you can help, donate, or volunteer. Complete coverage on Katrina evacuees. Now at CNN.com.
Closed captioning hours on CNN, sponsored in part by Auric Vacuums. Nothing gets by an Auric.
Want to make your pet hair magically disappear? Try my powerful 8-pound Auric XL free for 30 days.
In Houston tonight, federal officials are hoping to have all refugees out of the Astrodome by the end of next week. Hundreds are being moved out of the Astrodome each and every day into more permanent shelter. Soon, they will receive added financial help from the government in the form of debit cards. Betty Nguyen is live with a report in Houston tonight. Betty?
Lou, we heard from FEMA today that some 20,000 debit cards are being available to families here at the Reliant Park, which includes the Astrodome behind me. Now, these debit cards are worth about $2,000, and they will be distributed to families, not individuals, but to families. Now, we heard that those would be distributed today. Many people lined up to try to get those debit cards, but they were not available. We're learning from FEMA that they should be available soon. Of course, it does have to happen very soon because, as you mentioned, people are finding homes. We learned today that some 8,100 people are in these shelters, evacuees still staying in these shelters. But that is a far cry from what we heard just last night, that some 27,000 evacuees were in these shelters. So obviously people are going out and finding homes here in the Houston area, which is good news because today we're also learning that folks were signing their children up for school here in the Houston Independent School District. They want to make sure that their children are enrolled in school before they head out to their new homes. And one last thing, Lou, I think it's very important to note, as many of these evacuees came to Houston, there were also tales of violence that followed them from whether the Superdome or the Convention Center in New Orleans. Well, we have learned from the Houston police chief today that as of the 1st of September, crime here in Houston has actually been down some 3.3%, and that includes the time when these evacuees were transported to Houston. Lou?
Well, that's great news. It's also great news. It's wonderful news the way Houston has responded to the disaster in New Orleans and has opened up its facilities to bring all of those children there into the school system. This is going to take great effort and some considerable patience on the part of everyone in Houston. They're to be commended. Betty, thank you very much. Betty Nguyen reporting from Houston. The Gulf Coast disaster has inspired a grassroots relief effort in this country and communities all across the country. In fact, thousands of Americans are volunteering their time, their belongings, and their money in order to help those people in need. Casey Wyan has the story.
Both sides of this Los Angeles Industrial Park block are lined with tons of supplies for Hurricane Katrina victims.
Toiletries, water, baby goods, clothing, shoes, toys, books, tapes, kitchenware, everything. I mean, everyone there will need some of this. They have nothing.
Priscilla Valdejuli's brother and fiance are among those who lost everything but the clothes on their back in New Orleans. She and dozens of others came here to donate supplies and stayed to work. Cesar Franco is supposed to be at his bank job, but he called his boss and said he's taking the week off to volunteer.
the devastation, the victims, the children, the elderly, the homeless, the less fortunate. Right. I mean, if I can donate my time, that's all I have, why not?
Relief efforts don't get much more grassroots than this one, called Puppies, Babies, and Mommies Too. Marketing consultant Sydney Ray started it all last Thursday.
You can't just watch these images and sit here and think, oh, I'll just give money to the Red Cross and hope it goes away. I had to do something.
So she recruited volunteers and donations through the internet and local TV news. The result, more than a dozen California collection points, at least one 18-wheel trailer, plus 24 SUVs and light trucks full of supplies destined for the New Orleans area so far. There, the United Way will distribute the items. Young brothers Keith and Kyle Burns donated their own toys and clothes.
And the rain knocked it all the houses down.
I know that.
The effort is being duplicated by hundreds of thousands of private citizens and businesses, from collecting cash at a high school football game in New York
Help your fellow Americans, please.
to food donated through fire stations, schools, and churches nationwide, now arriving in the Gulf Coast. Back in Los Angeles, Sydney Ray already needs a dozen more 18-wheelers to deliver all the supplies her volunteers have collected. Ray plans to continue this operation for at least 6 months, and she's in the process of taking her relief effort nationwide. Lou?
Well, good for her, Casey, and good for everyone in this country helping out, helping all of the people in New Orleans. A great story. Thank you very much. Casey Wyan. Coming up next here, UN Secretary General Kofi Annan is blasted in a new report on the Oil for Food program scandal. We'll have details on this scathing report here next. And then, pumping the toxic water that has flooded New Orleans. I'll be talking with the man who is leading the effort to rebuild and reconstruct that city, Lieutenant General Carl Schrock, the head of the U.S. Corps of Engineers. That story, those interviews coming right up. Stay with us.
So we need 90 notebooks, Wi-Fi enabled ASAP?
Right.
You just want me to make them appear now? All right.
바로 파코 아초.
I'm just kidding. I'll call CDW. You'll have your notebooks in no time.
Nobody responds like CDW. With great technology like the ThinkPad X41 tablet PC. It's one of the lightest convertible tablets on the market. CDW, the right technology, right away.
So you guys want me to conjure up some PCs too?
Stopping the spread of disease around the world is vital. That's why Tyco makes the Monoject Magellan Safety Needle. Its unique design helps prevent needle stick injury, protecting patients and caregivers from disease. Tyco makes thousands of products that aren't simply important, they're vital. Tyco, a vital part of your world.
Be frugal.
Be decisive.
Be opportunistic. Be powerful.
In other words, be extraordinary. Power E-Trade Pro, radically upgraded, and now with low pricing for stock and options trades. At E-Trade Financial, we keep challenging the ordinary to help investors be extraordinary.
The aftermath of Katrina. Stay on top of this developing story. Live updates at the top of every hour, around the clock. Stay with CNN.
When is a diet pill worth $153 a bottle? When you're more than 20 pounds overweight and every diet plan has failed. Now there's Leptoprin.
Specifically developed for the significantly overweight, backed by a United States patent, a double-blind published clinical trial, and an ironclad 100% 30-day money-back guarantee. Leptoprin is simply the most powerful, clinically proven weight control compound available, period.
If you're one of those people who constantly worry about 5 or 6 vanity pounds, Leptoprin is not for you. Leptoprin is much too expensive and much too powerful for the casual dieter. But if you're one of the millions of Americans who are 20, 30, 50 pounds or more overweight, you need Leptoprin.
So when is a diet pill worth $153 a bottle? When it works, really works.
Isn't it time you tried Leptoprin? Call 1-800-858-8221. 1-800-858-8221.
The Situation Room. CNN tomorrow, 3 to 6 p.m.
U.S. troops in Iraq have rescued an American who's been held hostage for 10 months. The military said troops rescued Roy Hallams from an isolated farmhouse 15 miles south of Baghdad. Officials say Hallam's is in good condition. Meanwhile, in southern Iraq, 4 American security contractors were killed today in a bomb attack in the city of Basra. The 4 contractors were traveling in a U.S. diplomatic convoy. Later, a bomb attack in the center of Basra killed 16 Iraqis. 21 other Iraqis were wounded in that attack. A scathing report tonight on the huge and escalating scandal over the UN Oil for Food program. Investigators blasted UN Secretary General Kofi Annan for his poor management. The report declared the UN requires thorough reform, and it needs that reform urgently. Richard Roth reports.
Designed as a humanitarian program, Oil for Food will now be remembered as the biggest financial scandal in United Nations history. In a highly unusual scene, UN Secretary General Kofi Annan and the UN Security Council sat and listened as Oil for Food Chief Investigator Paul Volcker issued a devastating attack on them for failing to manage the program.
The result was no one seemed clearly in command. Delays in or evasion of decision-making was chronic.
The Secretary General and his deputy were blamed for poor oversight. A large question still hanging over the year-long investigation was whether Annan was influenced by his son Kojo to steer a major Oil for Food contract to a Swiss inspection company he worked for. After looking at emails and phone records, the judgment was still no wrongdoing by the UN chief.
We have found no corruption by the Secretary General. His behavior has not been exonerated by any stretch of the imagination.
The report is critical of me personally, and I accept the criticism.
Annan called the findings deeply embarrassing for the entire UN, but dismissed any talk of stepping down before his term ends next year.
I don't anticipate anyone to resign. We are carrying on with our work.
Annan can't fire his son, who is not a UN employee, but the report said Kojo traded on his father's name, gaining inside information for his company's UN contract bid, and importing a car without customs fees into his native Ghana.
I think very simply stated, he's bad news.
The report also says Kofi Annan's predecessor, Boutros Ghali, was the target of Iraqi government bribes of possibly millions of dollars. But there's no evidence that the former Secretary General was aware of that or got any money. In a statement tonight, Kojo Annan denies calling the UN Procurement Office and says his buying of the Mercedes car using his father's name, getting a discount and importing it into Ghana was a youthful indiscretion which he can be forgiven for. And Paul Volcker wants it clear, Lou, that most of the shenanigans happen with smuggling through Jordan and Syria outside of the Oil for Food program. But still a horrible day for the United Nations and the people who work for it, and the Security Council, and the Secretary General.
And the Secretary General accepting the criticism, as he put it, his organization called corrupt, his organization called mismanaged, a bureaucratic disaster, and structurally flawed to its fundamentals. On what basis would there not be a call for his resignation?
So far, no country has come out with it, but in baseball, they say you can't fire the whole team, 25 players, but you can fire the manager. And I think Annan's record, from the bombing of the UN building and sending the staff in and criticisms there and a whole range of personnel decisions, leaves him very open for some to legitimately say he should still not be at the helm. But remember, I asked him this a few weeks ago, will you resign? He said, hell no.
Well, perhaps resignation would not be the proper course then. Richard Roth, thank you. The Pentagon today declared that 2 Navy helicopter pilots who diverted from their mission and took it upon themselves to rescue more than 100 stranded civilians have not been reprimanded. This morning, a published report said those pilots were disciplined for straying from a supply mission and instead helping those civilians. But later, the Navy insisted the pilots were in fact commended. Jamie McIntyre has the report from the Pentagon.
On Tuesday of last week, when the flooding hit its peak around New Orleans, 2 Navy pilots from this helicopter unit based in Pensacola, Florida, diverted on the way home from delivering critical water and supplies to help rescue more than a dozen people trapped on roofs of houses and apartments. But even though the motto on the pilot's shoulder patch is "so others may live," they were chastised, not cheered, upon their return to Pensacola. A Navy spokesman said the Air Operations Chief felt it was necessary to remind them they had a logistics mission that they needed to complete so others could do their parts of the operation. When Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld saw an account from the New York Times in his morning clips headlined, "Navy pilots who rescued victims are reprimanded," he immediately ordered his top military aide to get to the bottom of it. A senior defense official told CNN he was troubled by the impression that someone would be punished for saving lives. He asked for a much clearer understanding of what he knew could not possibly be accurate. The Navy insists the pilots were never reprimanded nor removed from flying duties. In fact, they went on to rescue more than 100 people that day. Still, the incident illustrates a key question about the military response. To what degree did the military stick to a plan that was inadequate, and how quick was it to improvise creative solutions such as airdrops of supplies from helicopters?
No war plan survives the first contact with the enemy. Operational leaders must always be ready to adjust.
By late Monday night, flooding in New Orleans was widespread, as reported by CNN and other television networks. But Pentagon officials say their review will focus on what they see as a critical window of about 30 hours that begins Tuesday night, a day after the levee broke. That's when the Pentagon says the real extent of the massive flooding was clear, and when officials concede there may have been a chance to better adapt the plan to the magnitude of the disaster.
I think it was pretty adaptive, Jamie, but I won't go further than that because there will be great reliving of this incident in the months ahead, and time will tell.
As for the two Navy pilots who got a talking to from their commander for taking matters into their own hands, well, they're being described now as heroes. Navy official says that given the #1 priority is saving lives, their actions are to be commended. Jamie McIntyre, CNN, the Pentagon.
The U.S. National Guard now has 45,000 personnel in the Gulf Coast tonight. They're performing critical work of all sorts of types in helping the region bounce back from this overwhelming disaster. And Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld this week said there are some 300,000 additional National Guard troops that could be called in if they were needed in the weeks ahead. Lieutenant General Stephen Blum, the chief of the National Guard, joins me tonight from the Pentagon on the National Guard's ongoing disaster role. General, good to have you here. I know you've got your hands full, as do all of your troops and everyone working in this effort. What role will the National Guard have in the mandatory evacuation that's being ordered now for citizens remaining in New Orleans?
The Guard will have any lawful role that the governors in charge of their states direct them to perform. The governors are the commanders-in-chief of the National Guard at all times when they're employed under the authority of the governor, and that's what's ongoing right now. Currently, we have 45,000 National Guardsmen from every single state in this country, 2 territories, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia, responding to this natural disaster that hit a region of our country that now has national attention. So, as I've said before to you, Lou, when you call out the Guard, you truly do call out America.
Absolutely. And those guardsmen and women are doing remarkable work already down there. What is your plan right now? The Secretary of Defense saying that 300,000 guardsmen are available. How many do you expect will be needed based on on your current assessment of this disaster?
We honestly do not know how many we'll ultimately need. So far, we're surging to a force of about 50,000 over the next 36 hours, and then we will continually reassess our contribution. One thing we won't do is hold back anything that is needed by the governors to make sure that we ensure that we save lives and sustain lives and save property and restore order and hope to those people that were so stricken by this natural disaster of biblical proportions.
You know, that expression, biblical proportions, the first time we heard that expression, it sounded, if you will, an exaggeration. It now seems to be perhaps even an understatement as we look at all of the victims, the people who have been displaced from their homes and their businesses, and at all the work that remains to be done. General, what do you see as your most difficult task among the many difficult tasks that you and your people have to perform here?
It's the race against time in order to save lives. We still have rescues and search and rescue operations ongoing, and every hour we're still finding hundreds of people and saving literally thousands of lives a day. And we cannot stop that until the last living person is found that needs our assistance to sustain their life. So we have to do that. We have to maintain order. We have to distribute food, water, and other medical supplies. We have to provide transportation and security. Actually, what we have to do is provide support to all of the emergency support functions that are provided by the lead federal agency. In this case, it's FEMA. The National Guard is not the military law of the land. The governors are still governing, the mayors are still governing, and we are there to support their legal constituted authority. And our main function is to save lives and to sustain the lives that we do find and save.
General, Louisiana Governor Kathleen Blanco has yet to decide on whether to call upon the National Guard to help in those mandatory evacuations from New Orleans. If she makes that decision, there is no hesitancy on your part in following through?
No, because the National Guard, because they are under the control of the governor and called out by the governor, they have police authorities if the governor wants to extend those police authorities to those National Guardsmen. And we have flowed in now 7,000 military police from all over the nation, National Guard military police, who are certified law enforcement officers. So if the law needs to be enforced, the National Guard could be used in that role. But I will tell you, that will be to support the already established and existing civilian law enforcement. We will not replace them. We won't supplant them. We will only expand their capability and assist them in executing the law if it is in fact ordered. It yet remains to be seen if she will order that or not.
General Stephen Blum, we thank you for being here tonight. We thank you
Lou,
for your work.
excuse me, the last time I was here, you asked me about recruiting. I want to report to you that contrary to your predictions of doom, we're up from the last time I appeared by 1.5%, and we're on our way to recovery. We're only about 4.5% off our goal now. So the Guard is in good hands. There's plenty of us. Well, there's 300,000 more available if the Secretary of Defense needs us for the overseas warfight or at home. Your National Guard's alive and awake. You don't have to worry at night. We're awake.
General, I never did worry, and just to keep the record straight, that wasn't my prediction. That was the prediction of others. I'm glad that it is, as you put it, thumbs up in terms of recruiting and all your other work.
Tell others to call 1-800-GO-GUARD and send me some young men and women. We could use them. Thanks.
General, we thank you very much for your work and all of the work of those young men and women who make up the Guard.
Thank you.
We'd like to know your thoughts tonight on that issue of mandatory evacuations. Do you believe people still in the city of New Orleans should be allowed to stay, even if it is dangerous to their health? Yes or no? Cast your vote at LouDobbs.com. We'll have the results for you later in the broadcast. You've heard on this broadcast, by the way, several people, including Reverend Jesse Jackson and others, admonish us not to use the term refugee when describing the New Orleans citizens who've had to flee their homes. Jackson and others, including President Bush, have said or implied that the term is racially insensitive. In my opinion, straightforwardly, Reverend Jackson and President Bush are not entirely correct. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines refugee as one who flees. The nation's foremost news organizations, including the Associated Press, the New York Times, and this broadcast, use the term refugee when and where appropriate. The President, Jackson, and others apparently think that news organizations created the term refugee just to describe victims of Hurricane Katrina. Hardly. Even a cursory review of reporting of such disasters as Hurricane Andrew, the 1993 Midwestern floods, and wildfires through the West have all prompted the use of the term refugee by news organizations. I'm proud to tell you that this network has resisted others telling them how to use words, rejecting, in fact, the United Nations suggestion that we use, instead of refugee, the expression internally displaced persons. I love that one. We'll continue here to use the term on this broadcast where we think it is most descriptive. And unfortunately, we realize that there are those who will try to establish their own bona fides as politically correct and even racially sensitive in their view by conjuring up more nonsense about language when they should be focusing on reality and the concerns and care that all Americans have for our fellow citizens who need our help in New Orleans. Coming up next, the man responsible for the enormous task of rebuilding the city, the commander of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. He's our guest. And the skyrocketing cost of heating your home. Home energy bills could rise more than 70% this winter because of this hurricane disaster. We'll have that special report and some good news for you on gasoline prices. Stay with us.
Schwab Street Smart Pro. We're talking a stock screener with 140 criteria to help hone your search, a sector tool that shows which industries are moving, and conditional alerts that trigger automatically, all in one advanced trading platform. All for just $9.95 a trade. Schwab Street Smart Pro. Test drive it now at schwab.com/pro.
The first words on the moon were spoken into a Plantronics headset.
See you coming down the ladder now.
But the question remains, what if our headset wasn't there?
That's one small step for man, one giant hawk. Are you there?
Now Plantronics makes wireless headsets for everyone. Plantronics. Sound innovation.
Now at CNN.com, finding loved ones in the aftermath of Katrina. See rescues and reunions on free video, plus how you can help, donate, or volunteer. Complete coverage on Katrina evacuees. Now at CNN.com.
Next, CNN Primetime takes you beyond the headlines. Go to the places, meet the people, question the newsmakers, get the real story. News, not just talk. CNN Primetime. It's essential. Up next.
You make a living by what you get, and a life by what you give. That's why you'll find us helping our neighbors fix up their homes, or study after school for a physics test, or get ready for Mrs. Quinlan's first grade class. Because the men and women of Lockheed Martin believe that giving back is the very best way forward.
Tonight, 60% of the city of New Orleans remains underwater, but that's an improvement. And it could take weeks, possibly months, to completely drain the city. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers tonight says only 23 of the city's 148 drainage pumps are now working. Another critically important task for the Corps is the repair of New Orleans' broken levees. Joining me now from Washington, D.C. is the man in charge. He's the commander of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Lieutenant General Carl Schrock. General, good to see you. We know you've got just a massive task in front of you and all of your people. How long, first turning to the floodwaters themselves, how long do you estimate it'll take to pump all of that floodwater out of the city?
Well, sir, it depends on where you're talking about. There are actually 13 levees, about 300 miles of actual line levee. We have one levee down in St. Bernard's Parish along the river. We think that might take as much as 80 days to pump down.
Right.
The main area of New Orleans, the Orleans Parish area around the Central Business District, we're looking at about 24 days on the outside to get that done. And then there are estimates in between those.
When you first became aware of this disaster, could you imagine that it would be this large a scale disaster, despite everything that you had studied, all that you prepared for, everything you knew about this incredible complex of levees and pumps?
Well, you know, until you're confronted with the reality of this, it's very difficult to imagine something like this occurring. But we did understand that there was a potential for this catastrophic disaster to occur in New Orleans. And unfortunately, it has occurred.
The politics are such that everyone now is looking back to the 2001 budget, looking at the 96 budget, in which the Corps of Engineers did not receive the funding it sought, received, in fact, only a fraction of it. What role did that failure to provide for construction of levees, the reinforcement of levees, play in this disaster? How important was it in terms of the flooding of this great city?
Sir, I can't say that for sure. We'll certainly need to look into that, but I can tell you that it's my personal and professional judgment that the levee breaks we've been looking at 17th Street and London Avenue likely would have occurred regardless of the level of funding, because they were really at the final configuration for this project. No amount of money would have gone to improve those levees beyond what they are now. They were at their final design configuration. There are many aspects to this project. There are actually three projects, one up along Lake Pontchartrain. That's the one where the breaks occurred. There's a project called Southeast Louisiana, which is about the drainage of the interior of the New Orleans. And then there's New Orleans West Bank. So those three projects were all moving ahead, and we've spent about $300 million since 2002 in the New Orleans area providing flood control and drainage improvements.
General, I have to suspect that people are listening to you say that no amount of money would have changed the outcome here. Does that mean that no amount of money would protect New Orleans when it's rebuilt?
No, what I meant by that is that the system we have in place that was designed to protect the city to the current level of protection was such that it afforded about a Category 3 level of protection from a Category 3 hurricane. What I meant there was that the portion of the project where the breaches occurred was at the final design, and we had basically completed that portion of the project. So had we been able to finish this project in a more rigorous way, it would not have affected those particular areas where those breaches occurred at 17th Street and the London Avenue area.
In general, your assessment tonight as to the progress made and what we can expect in the days, weeks, and months ahead as you begin to rebuild the levees, restore pumps, and rebuild the infrastructure.
Sir, I'm very confident that we have the direction and momentum going on this one. It is going to take a long time. The longer it goes, the more inefficient the pumps operate because they're pulling against a higher head, as we say in hydraulics. So it's going to be a long process. But I'll tell you, I think the people down in the Mississippi Valley Division, the New Orleans and Memphis districts are working this, have their arms around this one. And really, I'm focused on other things right now, support them with everything I can. But we've got to get navigation restored. We've got to get debris moved. We've got to get temporary housing going. So at this level, I think Bob Creer down there and Rich Wagner in New Orleans understand what they need to do. And we're looking to other aspects of recovery here. We're trying to set the conditions for the recovery of not just New Orleans, but the entire coast, the southwest parishes and the coast of Gulf Coast of Mississippi. That's what I'm really focused on now, the big and long-term recovery.
Big, long-term recovery, a massive undertaking, and we're just beginning to get a sense of it. We thank you for helping us move in that direction. General Carl Strzok, thank you.
Thank you, Lou.
Still ahead here tonight, Capitol Hill erupts in recriminations in the wake of the hurricane. I'll be talking with our senior political analyst about those implications and his analysis. And an entire industry in this country threatened by foreign competition has been devastated by Hurricane Katrina. We'll have that special report. And to find out how you can help the victims of Hurricane Katrina, among other things, you can call the American Red Cross at 1-800-HELP NOW. And for a full list of charities to whom you can donate your services, goods, clothing, and money, please go to CNN.com and stay with us.
CNN tomorrow on American Morning. Katrina, the survivors, the heroes, the work ahead. Real news and pictures from overnight. American Morning, CNN tomorrow, 7 Eastern.
Make an appointment for your private tour of a few of the area's nicest homes in all price ranges and styles by watching the Home Seekers Home Show, brought to you by Avenue Mortgage. You'll view real estate listings for residential homes in the Portland, Southwest Washington, and Salem areas, airing Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday at noon on Cable Channel 15. The Home Seekers Home Show, brought to you by Avenue Mortgage.
I can't seem to find the book Into the Mist.
What if everyone had the same extraordinary service as Northwest Community Credit Union?
Sorry, we're all out, but we do have the author.
It was a cold, dark night.
Northwest Community Credit Union, where you're more than welcome. And where the rates are as extraordinary as the service.
Parkinson's disease.
Most people think it strikes just the elderly.
But they are wrong.
Someday it might affect your family.
Someday it might affect you.
But there is hope.
To find out how you can help, call Parkinson's Resources of Oregon at 1-800-426-6806.
Comcast is
information.
BBC America brings you the latest news from around the globe with BBC World News. The military channel spotlights the men who take missions no one else can on Special Forces.
and blast off to explore the stars and beyond with the Science Channel's Cosmic Dimension.
Whatever you're into.
It's on Comcast.
John Walsh on tracking the missing after Hurricane Katrina. Larry King, CNN Tonight.
Funeral services were held today in Washington, D.C. for Supreme Court Chief Justice William Rehnquist. At the private service, President Bush, Justice Sandra Day O'Connor both praised Rehnquist for his integrity, his intelligence. The Chief Justice was buried at Arlington National Cemetery. The investigation into who inside state, federal, and local government is to blame for the Hurricane Katrina response has become increasingly, intensely partisan this week. But a new poll suggests the majority of Americans are not yet ready to point the blame solely at President Bush by any stretch of the imagination. CNN senior political analyst Bill Snyder has the analysis. Bill, just who's being blamed?
Well, that's a good question, and the answer may surprise a lot of people, because the answer is nobody. People don't think anyone should be held responsible for the problems in New Orleans after the hurricane. You can see that the top of the list there is local officials, just 25%, federal officials, 18%, Bush, 13%, but the largest number, 38%, say no one really should be blamed for this. You know, Lou, there are two separate questions. Who's to blame, which seems to preoccupy everyone in Washington, but the more important question to the public is what went wrong. That's what they'd like Congress to investigate.
You know, when you said no one is responsible, according to that survey, our new survey, it looks to me like a lot of people, they're just trying to decide whether they would most blame the president or state or local officials. And certainly a case can be made for all three of them.
Well, a case can be made for all of them, and that'll be sorted out as they get more information. But their immediate inclination is not to seek recriminations. They're not ready to blame anyone. This isn't like 9/11.
This isn't like 9/11, but unlike 9/11, it seems to me that the nation is in certainly a stronger mood toward demanding accountability for failures wherever they occur, whether it be at the federal, state, or local level. Do you think I'm wrong on that?
Well, I'm not sure the American people would agree with you, because we asked them, do you think any top official in charge of federal emergency management should be fired? There's been a torrent of criticism of FEMA and other agencies. And the answer by better than 2-1 is, you see it here, no. They don't think any top federal official should be fired. This is simply substantiating the point that the public is not in a mood for recriminations right now, except for one thing, gas prices. Nearly 80%
they don't
say
know
that
who to
oil
fire.
companies,
They don't know who to fire there, Bill.
well, they think that oil companies are gouging people and that they are charging unfair prices.
But the oil companies tell us they're not.
Well, of course, they say they're not.
Well, you don't believe them, Bill?
Well, the people don't believe them. That's all I can tell you.
Well, the people are usually 100% right. Bill Snyder, thank you very much.
Sure.
Well, those gasoline prices may be falling slightly, but most of us are still paying more than $3 for a gallon of gasoline, and now Americans all over the country are about to be hit by the soaring cost of natural gas used to heat homes and generate electricity as well. Bill Tucker has the story.
The pain at the pump will be nothing compared to the pain coming in the mailbox. It will cost a lot more to have a warm home this winter.
Based on the present trends, natural gas prices this winter are expected to be significantly higher than last winter.
The government warning consumers that they may have to pay up to 71% more than last winter. It's a big price blow to a lot of people. More than half of the homes in this country are heated with natural gas. The second most popular heat source is electricity. Those consumers can expect to pay about 17% more because, increasingly, natural gas is used to generate their electricity, a point that was made very clear in a Senate Energy and National Resources Committee hearing Tuesday.
For example, what percent of new power plants in America have been built with natural gas during the 1990s, roughly?
I know from the latter part of the 90s until right now, it's been in the upper 90s, 98% or so.
Almost all. And what effect has that had on the price of natural gas?
It's certainly been a major contributor to the upward pressure on price.
Upward pressure is the understated way of saying that in the last 3 years, the price of natural gas has risen nearly 5-fold to the highest prices in the world.
The fundamental reason prices are where they are is because we have increasing demand for natural gas because of its clean burning characteristics, but we are not able to get to all of the areas where we could recover it most economically.
Expect the industry to argue that it be allowed to expand in those areas, such as in the eastern Gulf of Mexico or off the southern coast of California.
Now, natural gas is sometimes referred to as the forgotten commodity, and for years it was so cheap that, Lou, in fact, it was easily forgotten, but not this winter.
Hardly. A 500% increase. My gosh. Bill Tucker, thank you. Still ahead, a struggling industry in this country, completely devastated by Hurricane Katrina. We'll have that special report for you and a great deal more. Stay with us.
The whole neighborhood is a mess. What do we do now?
Geico's first concern is your safety and well-being. We are here for you. Geico adjusters are already in your area, ready to serve you. Our mobile claim centers are open to promptly settle your claims, even in the hardest hit areas. Here at Geico, we're committed to helping you get back on the road to recovery. Please visit us 24 hours a day at geico.com or call us at 1-800-841-3000.
Resilient fabrics. Insulation that shrugs off the weather. Energy-saving appliances. Durable surroundings. How do you make all of that happen? With the right chemistry. Improving the things we all need is a goal to live by, and it's ours. Dow. Living improved daily.
For years, E-Trade was alone, standing outside, throwing stones at the financial establishment for the good of the investor. Now that we've matured, we're doing it from inside. E-Trade Financial combines banking, trading, and investing so you can make the most of your money. Be maximized. Visit etrade.com and be extraordinary.
Sharp multifunction products transform the office by adding enhanced color to your documents. Then Sharp technology doubled your productivity by scanning two-sided documents in a single pass. Now Sharp's Data Security Kit is transforming the office again by preventing unauthorized access to information while keeping sensitive digital documents from falling into the wrong hands. The Sharp Digital Imager Series. All the productivity you want, all the document security you need.
Hurricane Katrina has had a devastating impact on people all along the Gulf Coast and their homes and businesses. One industry already struggling in the face of foreign competition, hit especially hard by this storm. Ted Rollins has the report.
It looks like this is going to knock it out.
As they sit on their shrimp boat, unable to take it to sea, JoJo and Geneva Ross say they are worried that Hurricane Katrina may have destroyed what has been a way of life for their family for generations.
I'd made the first trip on a shrimp boat with my father when I was 3 years old.
A lot of the people I know don't have the opportunity to go back. They've lost everything. They've lost their houses, they've lost their boats.
Many boats that did survive are trapped by storm debris along rivers where they were brought for protection. More devastating, though, is the fact that every processing plant along the coast is out of commission, meaning even if they could get to sea, shrimpers would have nowhere to take their catch.
The people of this country are helping us. We'll get through it.
An emotional Brian Galat says his family plans to rebuild their processing plant and warehouse, which were both completely wiped out by the hurricane. But he's worried that shrimpers won't be able to wait it out.
I'm hoping they can hold on. I know it's really bad, it's really dire, but you just got to have hope.
Before Katrina, times were already tough for shrimpers here. Foreign imports had depressed the market price of shrimp so low that many shrimpers were operating at a loss. Some shrimpers have already decided to try something else. Ivan Rose plans to get into construction. JoJo isn't sure what he'll do.
I'm 61, looking at going on 62. I got a lot of decisions to make of what I want to do. I don't want to leave it. I love it. It's a way of life. It's the best way of life I have ever seen in my life.
Ted Rowland, CNN, Goshen, Mississippi.
We'll be back in just a moment with a preview of what's ahead tomorrow. Stay with us.
Saving lives is vital. That's why I use Tyco Scott Air Pack. It allows me to breathe, and most importantly, to save lives.
Tyco makes thousands of products that aren't simply important, they're vital. Tyco, a vital part of your world.
The Oracle Grid, a group of low-cost servers connected by Oracle software. Now, if a server fails, the grid just keeps running. The Oracle Grid runs faster, costs less, and never breaks.
Earning trust in the investment business takes time. Will 75 years do? Van Kampen Investments. Shine.
I was here before here had a name. As fields became farms, as grasslands became greens, and now as families become neighbors, till after their kids become parents, I'll be here. A natural gas well, one of Kerr-McGee's thousands, meeting energy demand in harmony with the land, with still more to explore.
Closed captioning hours on CNN, sponsored in part by LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win.
When you refinance at LendingTree.com, you can save up to $200 a month with a lower rate. Just think what you can do with the money. When banks compete, you win at LendingTree.com.
The results of our poll tonight, 61% of you say that people still in the city of New Orleans should not be allowed to stay. As of tonight, Judith Miller, the Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times reporter, has been in prison for 63 days, 9 weeks, for protecting her confidential sources in the White House CIA leak case. Thanks for being with us tonight. Please join us here tomorrow. Senator John Kyle says Hurricane Katrina has raised serious questions about whether this country is unprepared for a potential terrorist attack. You will be our guest, and former New York City Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik on the responsibilities of local government in disasters. Please be with us. For all of us here, good night from New York. Anderson Cooper 360 starts right now. Anderson?
Actually, Lou, you are stuck with Erica Hill for just a little bit. Thanks, though. We are going to get to Anderson Cooper as soon as possible in New Orleans. There has been a slight technical issue there, so we're going to get you that. In the meantime, here's what's coming up on our show. The mayor of New Orleans says time is up for people who stayed through the storm. They've got to go. But will they? It is 4 p.m. now in the west, 7 p.m. on the east, 6 p.m. in Louisiana. 360 starts now.